Hello and welcome to the Bool Boys Pod, episode 16. All right, guys, I've been doing this for 4 months. How do you feel? Brian, Sebastian, 4 months in?
That's kind of crazy. 4 months is a lot, but it feels good. I feel like we have a good momentum going, and it's always nice to have this in my calendar for Sunday nights.
Sebastian, how are you, my friend?
It's been a weekend of ups and downs. Those 4 months did fly by, as Brian was saying, but yeah. Last night was a low. Today there was some relief, so
Yes,
that's all.
we won't talk about the USC game, but maybe we'll touch on it a little bit. But I can understand why it was just a little
Whack.
bit. Yeah,
I hate those fuckers so much.
we talked about it like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, but exciting pod today. We'll bring in for the first time Johnny. We're going to do an NBA season preview, kind of like go over the important teams, give our thoughts on what Caesar Book has as the over and under, what their trends are, and a couple key players and stuff like that. Then Johnny's going to stay for Bool or Bust and top five. Top five this week is Sandwiches by Sebastian. So looking forward to that. And then also we have our fantasy draft next week, right? Going to Salt Lake City, the boys are making a trip to a very holy state. I don't know if they can deal with our level of generosity, but
I think it'll be fine.
yeah, but
It's a hip place.
So Salt Lake City is pretty
You
hip
saw
these
All
days, I
Star.
feel.
You saw All Star weekend last year. It's a hip, thriving place with really cool billionaires who wear backwards hats.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. He actually seems like a pretty good
I'm not
down to earth
buying it.
guy.
I don't mind. It's a little too much for me, but
It's that like put on billionaire coolness.
That's fair. That's fair.
very true.
In the
But
interviews, he wasn't so bad.
that's like his
Fair.
job, Brian.
Yeah, that's also true.
Yeah.
But me, Brian, and Arjun are driving. Arjun's driving us to Bryce and Zion, and then we'll meet you guys in Salt Lake City. You're gonna go camping and stuff. Looking forward to it. Do the Narrows and things like that.
Glamping. Not even
Yeah,
glamping. We have
yeah.
like cabins.
Y'all
Just like
cabins.
Airbnb straight.
Stop
Yeah,
lying to
I-
the listeners.
Yeah. Verbo or VRBO. So it's not
Yeah.
even, that's like even luxury, isn't it? VRBO.
I like a bed in a shower after hiking for long days. I don't assume.
Same, man.
So let's get into it. Game of the week was Washington versus Oregon. First of all, congratulations, but also fuck you, Brian.
Go Dogs, dude. I mean,
Go Dogs,
it's like my half allegiance, but I'll take it. It was a hype
Is it
game.
even
It
half?
was like- I mean, if we're gonna go by percentages, I went there for 1 year and I went to SC for 4, so 20% allegiance, I guess.
That's fair.
So not even half, I guess.
I felt a bit jilted, honestly, if hearing you say it's your half allegiance as a Trojan
fair enough.
brother.
That's fair enough. The Notre Dame loss definitely hurt more. Those are the games I actually watched.
At least
pretty
you're honest
deeply,
about
though.
it. But
Yeah.
what were your thoughts, Brian? I'll let you have the floor first.
I mean, overall, it's just a super hype game. A lot of action. There was a lot of touchdowns pretty early. Penix is pretty sick. Yeah, I mean, at the end, it's like we were able to snake last touchdown out, and you guys missed the final field goal. But overall, I mean, just from my 20% allegiance, it was just like a really hype game to watch all throughout, and really enjoyed it. What about you guys?
Siebes, what do you think?
To me, this is probably like the one game I would have circled at the start of the season, and like assuming both teams would have been undefeated heading into it, as like the most excited I would have been about a game, just because last year was so incredible, and I'd say this one lived up to the hype as well. Um, I really like Michael Penix. I was a huge fan of his when he was at Indiana. Seems like people kind of forgot about him in his like second year there. And when he came to Washington, I was pretty happy that he was able to like seamlessly integrate into their system and put up honestly Heisman worthy numbers for 2 years straight now. We could maybe get into some of the decisions that your boy Dan Lanning made. I'm not
Sure we
gonna
will.
be I'm not gonna be as critical as like a lot of people have been since then, because I got the vibe of what he was trying to do was. But I mean, it always feels like in games like this, you're going to have a few of those decisions, and you're either going to be looked at as like a genius or a moron. And I think there's more gray area with that. But yeah, just like Brian said, super hype game. I tend to lean Washington in this rivalry matchup just because, I don't like your school, Ashwin. I'm sorry.
I know. You don't have to tell me. I know.
The Huskies are much more
Hey, it's a
benevolent.
cooler
Yeah, they're like a
mascot too, dude.
much nicer
Is
fan
it?
base. They're a much nicer fan base. Better jersey colors. No Phil Knight handouts to help push the program along. And yeah, just have always had a better vibe. So was happy for my Husky brethren. Shout out to Kyle as well. I know he was very happy about it. And I'll let Ashwin take the floor and talk about his frustrations, I think, now.
Before I do, I just don't get why it has to be like all this way or all one other way. Either like they're fully into the analytics and they always go for it, or they're more traditional and they always take the points. Why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't it be like a spectrum? And you look at this sounds so like well, you look at the game individually and see what you need in the game. And in the game, I think we needed the points. And obviously, retrospect and hindsight and Monday morning quarterbacking is obviously happening, but I understand he's the type of guy who goes for it all the time, Dan Lanning, but just why one time, and like you can just look at it in a case by case basis. And if the case by case basis every time he's saying he's going for it, I think that's too much of an absolute. Nothing is absolute. But
can you explain, Ashwin? Are you saying that, and since this is not something I'm as in tune with, that he's very analytics based, or what do you mean by
like
going for it versus not going for it?
I don't even know if like some of those decisions were analytics based, because I believe the field goal at the end of the half, the analytics would have told you to take the points there. So like I actually think he's not. It's not an analytics based approach with him.
Just bad moves.
It's an extremely aggressive outlook on the game because it's a fear of Washington's offense. Honestly, I think is what dictated a lot of this decisions yesterday, because Washington's offense is so explosive. You want to maximize the points you can get out of every possession, but the field goal one really was an egregious fuck up in my book. Like I get what he was doing, and I may have even tried to do it at that point. But when you look back at it and you lost the game by 3, that field goal at the end of the first half that he passed was really quite a bad fuck up. And I think there was an even worse one. And I actually think the one I'm going to talk about is actually like not going for it on that 4th down late in the game that handed Washington the ball at like midfield.
Oh,
exactly.
I think the analytics.
I thought that was weird.
I understood it.
I was like, that's weird.
You ice the game if you get it, but the risk reward there to me is off. And I actually think the analytics probably would have said to go for it there. So analytically, I think he may have made the right decision, because you don't put the ball back into the Huskies' hands for the rest of the game if you get that first down. But you have to consider the offense you have across from you, and giving Penix that short field was always going to lead to disaster.
Yeah, now that you mention it, there was that inconsistency, Sebastian, like not going for it in the 4th, but the 2nd, and I think it was the end of the 3rd, he does end up going for it. That leads to my second point, which you mentioned it a little bit, but Penix Jr., like he tore us up downfield in a way I didn't really expect. I didn't know like they were like this. Washington was like this. He just kept hitting guys downfield, and they just kept making catch after catch.
Yeah, so sick.
It was
long bombs,
impressive,
like nasty long bombs,
just like heartbreakers, like after play after play. Yeah,
they probably have like the best group of receivers in the country. Like Odunze's incredible. Polk is really good. They just have a really highly skilled group of wide receivers, and I think that was on display yesterday. But I mean, I thought Oregon, for the most part, their defense did do pretty well against such an explosive offense. I thought like early in the game, Oregon's physicality was kind of like key in the game, and it kind of was looking like maybe Washington isn't going to be able to handle this. They made some adjustments and came out second half willing to meet that level of physicality, I think. But yeah, it was, I mean, these Washington Oregon games are always so nervy. It seems like for a rivalry game, they really do truly seem like they're always living up to the hype, at least recently.
What is Penix's actual odds? Does he actually have a legitimate chance at the Heisman? I know a lot of people are saying after this was like a Heisman worthy performance, but is he actually like in the running for the actual winning it?
I think he's the favorite now. He's a significant favorite.
They were talking about the triumvirate of like Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and Penix as being like candidates for the Heisman, right? During the broadcast. So two of them kind of just lost their vibe. Yeah. So
nice.
they want to merge through the
a big win with Caleb.
He played
Penix,
well. That leads to my next point, Sebastian. It's like you're going away and you're playing away at like a very hostile venue for a team that figures to compete for a playoff spot, and it comes down to a last second field goal. Like, you can't be that mad. But just to say, Camden looked super nauseous. Like, you could see him on the sideline. They kept panning to him, and he just looked like he was going to throw up and stuff, and he ended up missing it and stuff. So I don't know. And he's just gulping a lot of air, and just, it wasn't very like confidence inspiring. But overall, like,
reassuring.
This particular game, I can kind of respect our performance and say, okay, Washington was the better team today. But just over the course of a 10 or like 12-year period, it just seems like Oregon's always an outside threat or a dark horse to make the playoffs, and it just never happens. So like at some point, we have three ranked games: Utah, USC, and Oregon State coming up. And I figure maybe if we play them again, conferences championships, hopefully things can come up. But it's a discouraging loss for sure. Brian, anything else?
No, I think that's mostly it. You guys said it. It's a super exciting game, and for me, I'm just kind of interested to see where the teams go from here. I'm sure Oregon will cover, and it won't be a huge deal in the long run. But like you said, they're usually a dark horse, and so we'll see what happens.
Me and Seeps talked about it last week. The Pac-12's last hurrah is coming, and this was like a very good game and a reminder of how great Pac-12 football could have been if it stayed around. So sad for that as well. But now, happy times. We'll bring on Johnny, the Khmer Tiger, for NBA season preview. All right, it's time. NBA season preview. We've brought in a longtime Booler, first-time guest, Johnny Tepp, a.k.a. the Khmer Tiger. How are you, Johnny?
Long-time listener, first-time joiner. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you and glad you can come on. So we have 1 week till fantasy draft. But since we're going to do a live fantasy draft thing for next week, this week we decided to do an NBA season preview. I sent the guys 4 little columns or categories to look into per team. We won't go through everything, but they were over and unders, whether the team is trending up or down, a key player for the season, and then what would you define as success for this team. We'll go conference by conference or division by division. We'll start with Atlantic Division. If you guys have anything that you think is really important for that team, go ahead and speak up, and let's get it started. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right.
Nope, we're good.
Okay, so let's go. Boston Celtics. Well, for the top 5 or 10 teams, we'll do all 4, but other ones we'll kind of gloss over. It might get a little too long. So Boston Celtics, their over and under was 54.5. What do you guys think? Do you think they are good for 55 wins or better? Let's start with Johnny.
I think it's over. I was taking a look at their roster, and they're pretty stacked, all positions. I think Kristaps is a very good pickup for them if he could stay healthy. And then I think it's championship or bust for the Celtics. And I think this is like the best roster they've had in like this little mini run where they've made like the Eastern Conference Finals for like 4 or 5 years. I think it's easy over.
Easy over for me. You guys?
I would agree.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I think
Brian,
there might be some shuffling with new players, but Kristaps is a good player. Drew is a great player. I think they'll be able to fit into the system since it's already being spearheaded by Jason and Jalen. So I think it's an easy over for me also.
so
Yeah,
my key, yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Steeps. No,
Just
go ahead.
one thing I was gonna say. I think they have a really solid top 6. I think it gets a little more shaky after that. And like when Johnny was giving his breakdown, he said if he can stay healthy regarding Kristaps. That's a big if, honestly. But for the regular season, I suppose like Al Horford is decent. Kristaps insurance. I think it's a bit weird that they're experimenting with bringing Drew off the bench because they don't want to hurt Al Horford's feelings. So I am curious, like how they wrestle with that issue. But yeah, I think it's an easy over for the most part.
Wait, they're bringing Drew off the bench?
They were toying around with it in preseason. I don't know if they've
That's
made
not
an
going to
adjustment.
stick when regular season starts. That's not happening.
Yeah, it seems like it's a move just done because Al Horford seems to be a bit in his feelings about maybe coming off the bench, and I think that would be.
He's like 39, man. It's time.
Yeah, he's like 40. He should just accept it.
And it keeps him fresh for the postseason. He should definitely accept it.
Yeah, I don't see why. Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see.
We all agree it's championship or bust for the Celtics. Is that fair?
Yes,
That's their success metric. And then my key player was Derek White. I think he's replacing Smart now. He'll have a bigger role. He'll need to facilitate in a much bigger and important fashion. Like he needs to run the team and get the ball to the right person at the right time because Drew has proven that he's not that player. So I think Derek White needs to have a big season for them to do well. Any key players for the Celtics? We talked about Porzingis a little bit, his health, of course, but anything else?
I just think in general, like just getting rid of Marcus Smart, even though like he was kind of like the embodiment of the Celtics culture, like getting rid of him made them instantly more likable in my eyes to root for them. But I did not like Marcus Smart
Really?
at all.
I like Marcus.
I go the other way.
You guys are all Lakers fans, so you guys hated them you guys hate the Celtics no matter what.
Really.
But,
I don't. It's my father's beef, not mine, is what I've always said about that.
I just didn't like seeing a green-haired man flop like a fish. So
the green hair.
Yeah. And it's like it's me time type vibe he gets sometimes. Yeah, I think it was a good cut.
He had a lot of main character vibes, giving off a lot
for sure.
Of time.
Like I do think, to further advance, they did have to move off of Marcus to see what this team could fully become. Like either someone's going to step up and become that leader, and they'll take that next step, or they'll flounder because all of them will just be looking at the next guy, wondering who's going to lead. So, I do think it was important, but yeah, we'll see. I liked Marcus, but yeah, I agree that it was probably a good move to move off of him for the betterment of that team.
Let's move on to the Nets. Nets, we won't. Nothing really interesting about the Nets, but what would you consider a successful season for the Nets?
Ben Simmons showing any like resemblance to him like being like an NBA player, or like not even like just like an all-star form, but just looking like confident out there. So I think that's like if there's any inclination of that, you salvage like that's your taking point for the season for the Nets.
I would agree.
Yeah, he was my key player, Ben Simmons. It's whether or not he looks good. Outside of that, I think they could potentially make the playoffs, right? I don't think the East is as strong as the West in terms of top down. It might be pretty good all around, but top down, I'm pretty sure the Nets still have a chance to make the playoffs. I could see that. At least to play in, I'd say that'd be a successful season for them, honestly.
Ben Simmons was my one guy, and then someone else to look out for would be Cam Johnson to keep developing. He's alongside Bridges.
He could be fun like a league pass team. I think that the potential's there.
Bridges is very fun. I'm not a huge Cam Johnson fan. I think he's good. I just don't really like his game's kind of boring to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fair.
Bridges, I'm a big fan of though, and they definitely have like something to build around with him, whether it be as like a guy on a mediocre team or a B guy on like a high ceiling team in the future, if they can bring somebody else in, you know.
All right. Let's go move on to the Knicks. So Knicks had two interesting things for me. One is that their over and under is at 46.5.
Yeah, I thought that was
very
crazy.
high.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take the under on
crazy.
that any day of the week.
I
But
wouldn't.
why? You explain why, Siebes.
Why would
They're
you take
good for
that?
48 games, for 47 or 48 wins.
I'd say so, yeah, based on last year. I think there's a finite number of wins in the East. I don't think they're like a 4 or 5 caliber team. I don't think there's 5 teams better than them in the East. And I think, yeah, like you get around 46 to 48 wins that way.
Did you guys feel like just I'm sorry, Brian. Just in general, like when you're looking at the win totals from last season, it was very way off from like historically, especially in the West. It just seemed like a lot of teams weren't winning many games. Like Nuggets were the first seed with 53 wins, and then you had like 3 to 7 all like around the same record and stuff like that.
I think they figure it to be a bloodbath and that they'll bleed wins and losses. Oh, they'll rather bleed losses to these like fighting each other. And that's why you said it, Denver's at 52.5 and they have 3 teams in the East had higher win totals. Like, yeah, I think they saw what we saw last year is that there's a lot of good teams in the West and it's going to be tough. There's going to be less and less of those easy like away wins that we feasted on for many years. Any key players, or rather, what would you define success for the Knicks? Would it be a conference finals? Would a conference semi do anything for them?
Ultimately it has to be the goal because they're definitely not better than Boston or Milwaukee. So like it does feel like second round is like the ceiling.
I don't think that's what they're thinking, though. Obviously not.
Well, yeah,
they made it to the semis. They've made it to the semis.
Yeah, but I mean,
so yeah, there has to be some growth, right? Or it's just stagnation, right?
We're getting so far ahead of ourselves because the season hasn't even started. But like, what does a Knicks win over the Bucks or the Celtics in the second round even look like? Would it massive injury luck? I think that's like the big question, because I do feel with the East, it's kind of anticlimactic doing a season preview because it just it feels like all roads lead to Boston, Milwaukee.
It's I think a lot of it is it's finally RJ's year, dude. Our guy.
That's
dude.
exactly
your guy.
Yes, he's
Our
developed.
guy,
It's not
dude.
going to happen.
My guy, dude. It's his
He's
year.
the key player, though.
I think so.
RJ 20-5 over the last 2 years. He's in the first year. Yeah, 20.
I thought he was
19,
way worse.
Yeah, but on like 40 or 42% shooting and 43% shooting. So is he going to score better and more efficiently? Is he going to add something other than inefficient scoring to his game? Can he play defense? Can he rebound? Can he assist so that when he doesn't score, he can still be useful on the court? That's the evolution for RJ Barrett, in my mind.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's move to Sixers.
I think you guys had different expectations for the Knicks because for me, I defined their success of the season of just making the playoffs again. Because in 2021, they was like, oh, the Knicks are back, and then they flamed out. And the next year, they missed it. And so I think making the playoffs 2 years in a row is very big for Knicks culture. And then my key player was actually not a player. It's the Tibbs fatigue. Are they going to survive the Tibbs fatigue? So, Tibbs has a hard coaching style that can zone out some players. So let's see.
I think you're looking at it from a rational fan's perspective, Johnny. But if we're talking about Knicks fans' expectations of the Knicks, it's probably
I think they'll be happy just making it 2 years in a row, man.
They might be.
Dude?
I actually think Johnny might be right. Like,
Yeah,
just consistency, like not flash in the pan, but something like a kernel of something building. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe I get the sense that and I may be wrong, but when Knicks fans get a taste of some of that sweet nectar, they get addicted to it, dude. Maybe I'm watching too many side what is it called? It's those videos where the guy goes in the streets and it's like crazy Knicks
Side
and
talk, New York.
Side talk. Maybe I've seen too many side talk New York videos.
I think Johnny's right though, because while they do tend to get a little too up and down, they're definitely like one of the more knowledgeable fan bases. So I think they're probably well
fair.
aware that like we're not as good as Boston or Milwaukee. Like it's not like I think even for them it's gonna be a hard sell. Like, yeah, we can beat one of those teams. I think they'd probably even stop short of saying that.
It's like your year-end review, and then your manager asks you, "What are your goals for next year?" The Knicks aren't saying championship or bust. So, Knicks fans are not saying that.
Okay, I think we did enough on the Knicks. Let's move on. 76ers. So the interesting thing, we all know where they are and stuff, but 49.5 over and under. Are they winning 50 games this year?
Under.
I'm going under, man.
I think it's a unanimous under. Seeps looks like he's contemplating. What do you think?
I'm going very slight under. Like you said, 49.5?
Correct. So 49,
I'd go like
48
right at 49. Yeah, like I'd go
probably
right at 49.
under. Probably under. To me, Maxi's one of the key players in the entire league this year. If he can take that next leap and be like a true number 2 next to Joel, I think it's definitely possible they go over. But I mean, there's some interesting stats with Maxi. His pick and roll efficiency when Harden is playing versus when he isn't is like night and day. Like he becomes a totally different player basically when Harden's not there. He's much better when he's not there. So it is going to be interesting to see what Maxi does this year, because if he becomes like an all-star level player, I could see 50 wins pretty easily.
I mean, he's already kind of fringe.
Yeah, he's fringe
on his good games. It's like, wow, he's pretty damn good. So is there I kind of want to ask, is there, in terms of the Harden situation, is there any chance of this being resolved well? And when I say that doesn't necessarily mean James plays, but they get a sick haul early so they don't have to deal with, just basically a dead spot on the roster for 30 games or something. Like, is there any way that they can resolve and get through this quickly, and so that the 50 wins seems more attainable, I guess?
I think even just yesterday, like some reporter asked James like about Daryl, and then he blasted him again. So I think that this is like going through like a trade deadline situation like this. So it's just going to be dead roster spot.
Yeah.
It relies on Maxi in more ways than one. If Maxi becomes a really, really good player, like you said, an all-star player, then they're negotiating from a position of power where they can let James Harden go for just really like solid role players because they don't replace that void. But if they start out the season losing, Maxi isn't that good, they'll be forced to make a Hail Mary type trade with James Harden just to get things on track and get him beat happy. So Maxi has a lot on his plate this year. I think you guys nailed it on the head on that one. All of us took the under on that one as well.
So here's a quote from James Harden when he was asked from a reporter like 2 days ago, and then it's like some reporter asked him, "Is there any way to salvage the relationship?" And he said no, and then he compared it to a bad marriage.
Yeah, I saw that. The funny thing about the Harden situation is apparently outside of him like refusing to speak with Daryl, he's been a good teammate. All reports are he's been a pleasure to be around. He's in great shape, very friendly with everybody else in the organization, but he just hates Daryl now, and it's kind of funny to imagine like he's this happy-go-lucky guy, and then Daryl comes in the room and he just turns his back. Like, this is what I picture in my head.
I funnily can't imagine that, because by all accounts, Harden is a chill guy.
Yeah.
And if he really is just zeroing in on more himself, I could see him literally saying to people like, "Hey man, I'm still chill with you, but fuck Daryl Morey." Like I could easily imagine that coming from James.
Me too. It's just a very funny image though, especially the showing up in great shape part, because we know in the past,
that is
like,
a surprise.
Yeah, but I've seen videos and stuff. He does look pretty slim, and everybody's reporting, around the team he's in great shape. Surprised that he's in such good shape. So
I just picture like at like a Sixers meeting, and then he's like, "I love every single one of you, but that man, fuck that guy."
Yeah. I think that's like what's happening. Like,
basically,
literally.
I kind of feel that way.
I mean, there's trouble in paradise for them. A lot of things need to happen for Philly,
Yeah,
and
you're wasting Embiid years, you know?
wasting prime Embiid years, and very soon I think he's going to ask out. So they got to get their shit in order. Anything else, or we'll go to Toronto, last team in the division.
Joel
Okay,
is just one. Joel is not without blame for their playoff failures, though.
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
He's supposedly in like the best shape he's been in this year, so we'll see. But I have felt like his conditioning could have been better the last few years.
15 pounds of muscle.
Is that what he said?
The off-season muscle. No, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's what
I think he said he lost 15 pounds.
Yeah. He's down to 6 to 8% body fat, and he put on 15 pounds of muscle. Exactly.
That's what they usually say. Evan, we'll talk about it later, but I have somebody to talk about regarding gaining muscle when it comes up
Yes,
later.
it's on my list too, Steves. I heard what you said.
I think Johnny will love
Toronto. Toronto is, what would you define success for Toronto this year? And then we'll move on to Central Division.
Figuring
Make
out
shrug.
the playoffs.
Sebastian gave a shrug.
Yeah, figuring out what
Brian,
you are.
what do you think?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Make the playoffs, maybe.
New coach.
Yeah, I'm excited to see.
They're kind of just in no man's land. Good.
Yeah, they need to decide like very early on in the season, like what they're going to be. Are they going to trade for someone to try to boost their playoff chances, or are they just going to like trade for assets? So I think within like the first 2 months before New Year's, they'll have an identity of which way to go. Yeah,
I think they are a team in flux. They need to decide: are they bottoming out, or are they going to try to make a push and add to Pascal? My key player was Scotty Barnes, year 3 of his rookie scale, RFA in 2025. We see a lot of players get fucked in RFA. Is he going to be a player who's an instant match, or is he going to be a player who they'll like try to get value out of him because he won't have that many suitors? It's basically up to him.
Yeah, he's also somebody who had a lot of hype after his rookie year that carried on to the second year, and then it really flatlined because he didn't seem to have improved that much. So I think there are some eyes on him
for sure,
see whether this is just who he is, and he's still very young, so I think he's going to improve. But that was somebody I saw as a key player for me also.
Okay, let's move to Central Division. Chicago Bulls. For this one, we'll do their over and under 37.5. What do you guys think about that? Let's start with Johnny.
I'm probably higher on the Bulls than most people here. I actually enjoy watching the Bulls. I think that it's an over.
All right. Well, Steve's recovers. Brian, what is your opinion?
You said 37.5?
Yes.
I mean, they still have Zach LaVine. They still have DeRozan. They still got the core 3, right? They still got Vooch. You know, the megastar 3. I could see, they still got Caruso. Unfortunately, my guy Lonzo is out for another year, and they were quite good with him. Obviously, not as good without him. I will go over, but not by much. I could see them being 38, 39 win team. I don't think that they're that bad. You know, they have perennial all-stars in DeMar, even though he's getting a bit older, and just a very good player / all-star LaVine, and also Vooch. So I could see them winning more than 37 games. So I'll go over.
I'm under. They had that good stretch, but I think we're still kept hammering it that after that they were just a shit team, and now you take Lonzo off that, and stagnation is regression, right? In the NBA, you have to keep getting better. If you stay the same, then you're kind of getting worse. So I go under on Chicago Bulls. Sieb's last word on Chicago.
I go with Brian. Shockingly, I'll say if they don't blow it up, which is, for the love of God, just blow it up. It's terrible. It's a terrible product you're giving your fans. But if they decide to keep ramming into the wall and keep it together, they'll win 38 games and be like a low-end play-in team, and it'll be miserable for the rest of the world.
Yeah, for a great city, great basketball city, the Chicago Bulls have been terribly mismanaged the last 20 years.
It's the Lonzo tragedy. It's not on the rest of the
Yeah.
guys, dude. It's the Lonzo tragedy, man.
They did have a fun
last year.
In the
No, I don't
beginning,
believe
right?
so. Did he?
Or was that last?
No,
was
I thought
that
he
2
played
years
a little
ago?
bit in the beginning, right? And then he got hurt after a couple months in. I could be wrong, but either way, sorry for my guy Alonzo. Just hope he comes back.
He didn't make that big of a difference.
They were
Yeah.
on pace to win like 50-ish games, and they were extremely fun when
He's
he was
the
playing.
glue.
Damn, dude. His last game was actually in January, at least from what I'm looking at, January 2022.
Yeah,
I guess just like a year came and went without,
that seems right. Yeah,
which
So
is crazy.
he played about 2 or 3 months, then he got hurt last year. So yeah. So in the Central Division, let's move on. In the Central Division, there's 2 kind of teams that are worth talking about in depth, and then we'll kind of gloss over Detroit and Indiana.
Indiana's worth talking
Indiana's
about.
interesting, man.
Yeah.
Indiana
Okay.
is interesting.
If you guys have something to say, let's go with Cleveland. So their over and under was 50.5, and I think we'll talk about the key player because we all know who it is. Siebes, why don't you take the floor and tell us who the key player is and why it's Mobley?
Well, it's definitely Mobley. I just listened to, I can't remember the gentleman's name. He was on Zach Lowe's podcast. He's a Cleveland beat writer, and he was talking. No, it was Fedor something. His last name was Chris Fedor. They are going to be heavily dependent on Mobley, especially at the beginning of the year with Jarrett Allen out. I think everybody needs to see if Mobley can anchor a defense and they don't have to be so reliant on that 2 big lineup, because that just made their offense stagnate and there was no space last year. Granted, adding Max Strus will help with that, but I think also more importantly, they need to see if Mobley can be more of a hub offensively, so that Mitchell and Garland don't have to be so ball dominant and predictable when it comes to the playoffs. I think Mobley's he's one of the key players in the entire league, especially for a team that's what their over under was 50.5. It was quite high. I was a bit surprised. Yeah. So Mobley it's gonna go the way Mobley goes, honestly, this season. And he didn't add an egregious amount in muscle. He was modest with what he said. He said he added 7 pounds of muscle. So he's honest, Johnny, because 7 is like a reasonable number you could add. You should like Mobley more than you do.
So he's 200 pounds when he's wet right out of the shower, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
He puts on his socks, so he's 200 pounds.
I think he's like 2. What is he at? He was probably listed on 222. Yeah,
I think we all had Mobley, but my thing was, it's make or break time. Are you going to be the next KG, or are you going to be a glorified Serge Ibaka?
I think there's an in-between.
Where are you going to be?
Hey, Serge is a good.
Serge is a good player, but he's not like the same trajectory at all as like how he's been hyped up, especially by some of the podcasters I listen to. Like he's not on the. He's already proven he's not on.
1 podcaster.
1.5. Two podcasters.
Like
he got absolutely bodied by Mitchell Robinson and Randall last year, and I have
get a rebound.
So did the guy who's supposed to be the bruiser, though. The guy who's supposed to be Cleveland's bruiser got humiliated too. That's why I find Jarrett to be very redundant.
It wasn't a good look for either of the big men for Cleveland during the playoffs last year.
I also feel. Oh, sorry,
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, on a less serious note, I feel as though Wemby has absorbed all of the hype for tall, skinny, mobile guys, and Evan Mobley's one of those guys.
So he can breathe.
Big defensive stopper, tall. Yeah, I don't know. So he's just absorbing the hype from Mobley. But no, I mean, I think he'll be doing well. I do think 50.5 is high.
So let's do it right now. Over under, yay or nay, Brian? 50.5.
I will say nay, right under at 49 or
Johnny.
50.
Under. It'll probably be like 46, 48.
Seeps.
I'll go over like barely. I think it's
I-
probably 49-51 is like.
I go under. I think same with Johnny, 46-48. Yeah. So let's move on to Milwaukee. 54.5 wins. And obviously we all know they're champ or bust. I think we all have. Do you guys all have Dame as the key player?
Actually, don't.
Yeah,
All right,
I
Johnny,
don't.
take the floor. Who's the key player?
Malik Beasley. The Bucks get they get a lot of like Bucks shooters historically, like the playoffs. They get stagnant. All their shooters get very open threes that they can't knock down. And Beasley's going to be getting even more because it's either they're going to be doubling Dame or they're going to be doubling Giannis. So then Beasley's just going to be in the corner. And like they try to fill that the past couple of years with Grayson Allen, and then they try to do like Jay Crowder. They just couldn't hit their shots. And if Malik Beasley can hit his threes, and they'll be pretty good. And he's a solid defender too. He's not bad. He's not great. He's not bad. So he can stay on the floor.
I think he's due for a bounce back year too. He had a tough time on the Lakers, and so he's really fighting for, I assume, his next contract in his NBA career. So he's really motivated. I could see that. They do need shooters, Johnny. I think it was well reasoned. So what do you guys think about the over and under? Siebes 54.5, high or low?
I'll go like slightly under just because that's quite high, and it's dependent on like perfect injury success or a perfect bill of health, I suppose. And that was a
Brian?
good case for Beasley. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
If you could take Connaughton's minutes, it would be pretty useful because I think Connaughton's kind of a low ceiling player,
Brian, what do you think?
I will go over. Actually, I think they're due for probably like 55 to 56 games, unless Dame's losing aura comes to the Milwaukee Bucks organization. But I mean, they played the Lakers today. Obviously, it's the preseason. There's not a ton to be taken away from it. But what we were able to see very quickly is the pick and roll, as expected, looks very sick. I think Johnny made a great point. Open shooters are going to be very open. There was a play today where it was like a pick and roll Dame to Giannis. Giannis takes like 2 dribbles into the key, and then there were like 3 guys open, right? And I think that's just what's going to be going down all season. So I do think they'll be going over, but I think the Bucks are obviously one of those teams where obviously regular season success is great, but it's almost like let's just say by some chance, which I don't think is going to happen, they went way under and they were at like 50. It still doesn't feel like, or 49 or something. It still feels like it wouldn't really matter that much because they're just really narrowed in on winning the playoffs and going deep in the playoffs. And so losses seem more like whatever learning experiences or whatever you want to call them, rather than anything super serious in the regular season. But I'll still go over.
I go over as well. I think they are set up to be a great regular season team. And I think Dame's flaws and holes in his game will be more exposed on the playoffs when he's constantly in pick and rolls and stuff and teams are targeting him more. I think he can get by during the regular season. And I figure that Budenholzer, for all his flaws, he knows how to run a regular season machine. That's like his key, even from Atlanta days. So I go over on Milwaukee Bucks. Okay. Anything else on Milwaukee? We'll take a quick break.
They have a new coach.
Yeah, Budenholzer is not.
Oh yes, you're right. Yes, Adrian Griffin, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man. Yes, I forgot.
Does that change? Does that change your?
It does actually. It does a little bit. There might be some growing pains with a new coach, new player to integrate. It does. No, I still think the Dame pick and roll with Giannis is good for many easy wins. I'm going to agree with Brian. I think 55 plus is around what I see. 55, 57. Okay, let's take a break and we'll come back with the Southeast Division. All right, we're back. We glossed over Indy, but I think that's kind of the history of Indiana. People just kind of fly over it en route to New York. So, we're moving to Southeast Division. Atlanta Hawks, not much to say about them. Their over and under is 36.5. Brian, what do you think? Over under?
I'm going over. I do think for the Hawks that Trey is a good player, Murray is a good player, and while they've historically had some troubles getting the team together, I still trust Trey enough to get them more than 36 wins. I envision it'll be something similar to this year where it was kind of funny, right? They always hovered around 500. I think it'll probably be pretty similar, maybe a little bit better, but for me, 36 just seems a little too low. So I'll go over.
Johnny?
I'll take the over as well. I think Trey Young is underappreciated. I think they're easy for at least 39 wins.
Seeps?
I'm an over, but it's not because of any of the players as much as it's about Quinn Snyder. I think Quinn will figure out.
Yeah. Cocaine Quinn. That was my over as well. Yeah, he's a good coach.
A strange guy, but he's a very good coach, and I don't see them not winning at least like 39 wins, like Johnny said.
Okay, let's move to Charlotte. Interesting one here. Over is 31.5. Over under is 31.5. Who's your key player for this one, Seeps?
Oh, I'd probably go with Brandon Miller. It's kind of weird to say a rookie's the key player, but I think if they can seize a future backcourt running mate or just a future like sidekick to LaMelo, it would be pretty beneficial to their future. Seems like a lot of people are kind of hyped on the Hornets this season, which maybe it takes a hit after Miles Bridges' latest idiotic episode, but it can't be as bad as last year.
What was their record last year?
Don't have that right now, but if someone wants to look, I'll say this about LaMelo. So he's coming off his injury, and I'll say this about Cade too. It's very similar situations. You have these like two dynamic point guards who had a big injury and now are coming back, and they have to determine whether they're going to be. They themselves will have to play themselves to determine whether they are foundational blocks for the future, or are they just going to be placeholders until like their rookie deal comes out, or like, I mean, LaMelo's already got his extension, but Cade as well, like there's everyone, it's the story of the hype like prospect that then just gets glossed over as soon as the next guy comes in. Are they going to be one of those guys, or are they going to stay there and like build something? That's what I think about LaMelo and Cade.
I think LaMelo's a lot more proven than Cade. He had them in the play-in the year before. They were 27 and 55 last year, so pretty bad, but they were a play-in team the year before, which was pretty good progress for them. I think, like, I get what you're saying about LaMelo, but I think people kind of forget how special he was, not just a season prior to this past one. So I think he's there for a while. He's definitely a foundational piece. It's everybody else that they have to see.
Yeah, but he needs to evolve his game, and like, is there going to be growth on the offensive end besides just the herky jerky Chuck type vibe he has? Brian, 31.5, over under.
I'd say over, because a lot of last season LaMelo was injured. Also, obviously the Miles Bridges situation, and obviously because he has, again, yeah, like Sebastian says, Miles Bridges has had another idiotic episode, but at least it's something that, unfortunately they're ready. They played most of the season without him last year, and I think with the addition of LaMelo coming back, barring him getting injured, knock on wood, but if he stays healthy, I think they're definitely a shoo-in for above 30 games. He is a very talented player. I think he's somebody who makes his teammates better. So I would say over for me.
Johnny, over under.
I'm taking the under. I think Charlotte's I think they're a dumpster fire, and I'm not a big fan of LaMelo and his game, and I don't think they have enough veterans to steer that ship right now. So I think it's just a car driving on the highway with no driver.
So they got rid of the Borrego coach, who was willing to like discipline and like put defensive solidarity and like stuff like that, and make them more solid fundamentally. But they got rid of him, and now do you guys remember who's his coach? Isn't it
Steve Clifford?
Steve. Okay.
Oh
I
no, they're over then. I take the over.
I have
Steve Clifford's hard.
I always
with those boys.
I always hated that Borrego thing that people have bandied about. I actually think he overemphasized the importance of being like a low tier 30-win team rather than like letting young players fuck up defensively to learn from their mistakes. I always thought it was a huge mistake to pull LaMelo late in those games because it just taught LaMelo like, oh, you don't actually have to play clutch defense. We'll just pull you from the game. And I thought it was counterproductive. And I've always thought it was a very, very obnoxious thing that people have bandied about Borrego being wrongly fired. No offense, but I heard it a lot, like last year when he got fired, or 2 years ago, and I understood why he got fired. The guy was coaching for job security, not development, which I understand, but yeah.
I just took a quick look at their roster also, and to speak to who the big veterans, I suppose, are some notable players that are over, let's just say 27 years old, even though that's still pretty young, a veteran. We're looking at Gordon Hayward, RJ Hunter, Terry Rozier. And that's your
not the best
your veteran squad right
RJ
there.
Hunter. Oh, whoa, you're back now.
Yeah, that's your veteran squad right there to lead the young guys into to manhood.
I think that's enough said about Charlotte. The perfect place to end on Charlotte, Brian. Miami Heat 44.5. I think key player for a lot of us will be Bam. No? Hero,
Tyler.
maybe?
Hero for me.
Hero,
Tyler
okay.
for me.
I had Hero.
Fair enough. Okay. What do you think for the over and under, Brian?
I honestly 44 to 45 feels right, but if the last few years have taught me anything about the Heat is that they always overperform when it counts. I think Tyler is going to come in launching because of he was the main trading chip involved in the Dame trade, and now that hasn't passed, Tyler does seem like the type of player that's going to say, hey, don't forget about me type of stuff. So I'll go over. I don't think it'll be by a crazy amount, but I could see the Heat being at 46, 47 wins. And even though he's not the key player I chose, I do think that whether or not Bam continues to improve, I had him last year in fantasy and he wasn't bad and he was pretty consistent, but it always still feels as though there's another level for him to take if they really want to be as great as they want to be. I mean, they make the finals, so who am I to say? But Bam still does feel like he has another level within him. But all that to say, I say over 44.
Siebes, over, under, and then we'll finish with Johnny.
I want to say under, but it's the Heat. Like 2 years ago, they were randomly a 1 seed. So I feel like they'll probably be over. Last year, they had really bad injury luck. If they can stay moderately healthy, they'll probably be like a 47-win team or something.
That's what I pegged them at. Johnny, what do you think?
I would probably go slight over. I think they're probably like 45 to 47, but it really doesn't matter what their playoff seeding is. But it also raises the question, it's like Jimmy's kind of carried them for so many years now, and I think he's like 34 now?
34, I believe, yes.
Yeah.
So can he do it one more time? It's like, they might, I could easily see them like flaming out in like the first round just because like he's tired. Just don't have the legs.
The system should carry them to that win, but it's how much does he have to put into the system to get them that wins? Like if they had better players, he could rest more and he could take like every game will become a must win towards the end of the season. So I get what you mean. Like they need to preserve Jimmy for the playoffs when he just goes off, and their entire season plan should be built around that.
I go. A quick question. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go. You first.
I'll say I go over really quickly for all the reasons you guys said. What do you say, Brian?
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, I guess that brings up for me the interesting question of would you guys consider the Heat a championship or bust team, just given the whole context?
I had them as championship bust team.
Or are they just a continuously overperforming team, but they're not necessarily championship or bust. Is my question.
They consider themselves
That's hard to
championship or
say.
bust.
They've been to the finals twice, so like it's championship or bust. Getting to the finals would be nice for them, but what would it do for them really? No one's gonna pat them on the back again, saying, "No, the Heat culture got you
I
there."
feel like I would, honestly, because just given how they're
But in
never
the-
within the top 5 teams that are discussed every year, and then they still make it to the finals, I'd give them a pat on the back.
But does that pat on the back mean anything?
Will Pat
I actually,
himself on the
I
back?
side with
Yeah.
I side with Brian. I don't know. It's like it's hard for them because they have been in the finals, but I feel like they're both years they made it was very unexpected. So I don't think they're Heat fans, or maybe Justin's expecting a championship, but I think in your heart to heart with him, he's probably saying nah. So
He's got a lot better. It'll be tough for them this year. Okay, Washington, we don't really need to go. They're going to be a bad team, but key player was Poole. Obviously, he's been unleashed. He can shoot as much as he wants. He's not held back by a strict, rigid system that Kerr plays, and he won't get yanked for 10 or 15 minutes every game. So, key player for them will be Poole. But anything to say about Washington, or we'll move on to Orlando, which is the interesting one in my opinion.
I
Key
did
player
have this
Johnny
for
Davis.
Washington.
Johnny Davis, okay.
Yeah.
For Washington, a successful season is being bottom tier finally. They're finally committing to a tank.
Yeah, well said. No, well said, Johnny. I agree. They have that problem. They rather
good point.
be in the play-in and not get a good pick, and then they wonder why they don't have blue chip talent. So,
Right.
very well said. Orlando Magic, interesting at 35.5. I considered a top 6 seed non-playoff, non-play-in as a success for
You
them. Yes.
Oh, as a success.
Yeah. Not
Well, that's
like what?
The leap.
lofty goals.
Yeah, it's a leap.
It's a leap, but yeah, I think getting to the play-in would be just par for the course. It wouldn't be a true achievement for them. We got the Franz and Paolo duo coming off a great FIBA tournament. So those were my key players, one or the other. Brian, what do you think about Orlando?
You said the over-under was 35.
0.5.
35. I think they're way over. Well,
Mhm.
relative to 35, I think they're about a 40 win team. I think Paolo is a very good player. I look forward. I think he's going to be taking a pretty big leap this year. He was at 20 plus 23 points a game or something like that last season. He had the green light to shoot, and he has all the makings of mentality and in terms of just like skill progression of just being a very good player. So I see him potentially being an all-star level player this year, or an all-star. And obviously Franz is super sick. He continues to impress as the better Wagner brother. And so with them together, I do see them kind of taking it to the next step. I do think 6th is a little too high from my perspective, but I could see them being in like a 8 seed range, playing in the play-in. And I think a definite over for me.
Definite over for me if it wasn't clear. Johnny?
Slight under. I think they're 1 year away from being in the play-in.
Okay. Siebes, why don't you finish this off for Orlando? What do you think?
I'm over. I'm along the lines of what Brian said, around 40 to 42 wins maybe. And I would say success would be being in that 7-8 play-in game. That's double elimination.
That's fair. Okay. Don't need to talk about Washington like I mentioned. Let's move to the West.
You have to say it twice, dude.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, people figure them to be the worst. I mean, who do you think? Detroit or Washington? Who's going to be the worst team in the league? Portland, maybe?
Washington.
Those three?
Washington or Portland, I think, yeah.
Washington.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if they know they're going to be shit, then good for them. Like, they're taking a plan and they're actively working towards it. And we'll talk about them in a couple years. Okay, Denver, over and under is not that interesting, but to me it was interesting. Who do you think is going to be the key player in the absence of? I mean, Bruce Brown went to Indy. Who's their key player this year? If it's not going to be Jokic,
MPJ.
MPJ is who I had. Johnny, what do you say, Siebes?
Christian Brown.
Christian Brown?
Yeah.
I liked him. He's active.
He
Brian,
has to fill that Bruce Brown role.
for sure. I see it. Brian, what do you
I
think?
also actually had Christian Brown for
Nice.
literally the same exact reason.
Good.
MPJ, I think obviously we're looking for him to continue to improve, but he has a special niche on the team that when he's good, it's awesome, but when he's bad, you just have other people to kind of fill the void for him. Aaron Gordon is obviously great. Jamal can score that scoring void. So while MPJ I think can take him, whatever to the next level is their NBA champions, I guess even just more consistent. But I think they did lose a lot in Bruce. So
I was more worried about his health because last year I know he played like 65 games last year, but it was like the first year in a couple where he's had some pretty big scares. So
yeah, for sure.
I mean, if he could stay relatively healthy, then it's part of the course for the Nuggets. So I think they're the favorites.
People talked about his all-time bad, NBA combine, like a health report. And what I saw he's paid near $34 million a year. And my question was like, is he worth that? Is he worth 25? And then maybe you squeeze out another MLE out of like that. So he got the ring. What is Steve's pointing to his ring?
He's worth $34 million because they got a ring. Yeah, I'd say he was worth it.
No, that's not absolute. You could absolutely have a better team if you like. Just because you won with a team doesn't mean there's a better, like, more efficient way to use your salary cap. That's absolutely not true.
I don't agree at all.
I agree with Sebastian. I think like it was like when MPJ got that contract, everyone was kind of like, "Yo, what the heck?" But like, it's kind of vindicated. It's kind of like the AD trade. It's all vindicated by a title.
Okay. Well, let's see if going forward, like, it scales up to about 38 million. I'm looking at that contract and saying, is there a little bit of inefficiency in that contract, and could they have maybe gotten one other player out of it? That's what my position on MPJ
they
is.
wouldn't
And
have won the title without him. Like, he was pretty key in Game 5 of the finals last year.
Yeah, but to say is that if there was another player in that position at a lower cost, could they not have done the same function? What was he doing something so unique? I don't know.
He was scoring when nobody else could.
Yeah, but there's a lot of scorers in the NBA, Sebastian. It's not like he was doing something.
I think it's just not really. I think the question died when they won the title.
I disagree. I think that you can always have better contracts and more efficient. If that's true, then the GM jobs ends when they win the championship. I don't think it's that true at all.
I mean, I think it really comes down to who you'd be getting for MPJ if that's the case.
Yeah, like it.
I'm probably a little bit on the Johnny Sebastian side too. Like, a lot is vindicated, but I see your point. It's but it's just like who could
they have kept Bruce Brown if he was paid a little bit less? That's like that thing.
Probably not.
We'll see. Like, it's tough to say.
No, I mean,
let's move to.
I don't think they could have kept Bruce because when you look at what he got paid by Indiana, there's
what
no
is he
way.
Getting paid?
$20 million a year. It's a 1-year
he was
contract.
Getting like what, 8? He was getting like 8 on the.
So
yeah,
if you shave $8 million off, it's a lot closer, and he gets the chance to return to a championship defending team. Maybe he takes it as 16 versus 20. I don't know. Minnesota, you guys thought was very interesting, but we'll come back to that. Portland, do you guys want? This is actually a very interesting division, in my opinion. There's a lot of flux. So let's start from the bottom again. We started at the top with Denver, and now let's go to the bottom with Portland Trailblazers at 27.5. Caesars did not have a line for them yet, so we had to use the MGM one. 27.5. I think my key player would be Ayton. Got your chance to move out. Got a chance to be a bigger voice in the locker room. And you have a young dynamic point guard now, so let's see what you can do. There's no excuses. What would you consider success for the Trailblazers, Johnny?
I think that they are not counting the wins. I mean, I know they have Ayton on like that massive contract, but I think their goal of the season is to develop the young guys. I think they need to see a little bit more from Shaedon Sharpe, see if has something in him. Scoot's probably going to be pretty dank, and Anthony Simons is like a microwave. I actually like that guy a lot, but I think it's just more about developing Shaden and Scoot.
For sure. So what would you
Ethan's
consider?
just there to put the buckets in the seats per se. He's a no name.
What would you consider successful seasons for Sharp and Scoot?
Scoot, like if he looks like he's gonna have off nights where he's like very inefficient, but if you could see like his vision, like you could like with these really hyper athletic point guards, like remember like D Rose, Westbrook, Wall, like you could see like they had like an extra gear when they ran and they weren't scared of like the moment. So I think that's success for Scoot.
For sure. Brian, over or under 27.5.
I'll go over. I do think that they're a pretty talented team. Aiton, Sharp, Simons, Scoot. I'm sure I'm missing somebody, but
Grant.
Yeah, I mean Grant. I mean he's obviously
forgot
getting
about Jeremy
massively,
Grant.
he's getting massively overpaid. He's getting massively overpaid, but he's obviously a solid player. So I think that's a team that can get to 30 wins. I feel like I've been going over on everything, so there's not enough wins for all of that.
Yeah,
but
we agreed that they might be one of the worst teams in the league. If the worst team in the league gets 30 wins, it's a lot of parity.
Well,
no?
I think Washington will be worse than the Blazers.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got to go over. Yeah, I think Aiton is in a position where he's ready to show up and being able to contribute to a team as the main guy or one of the main guys. And similar to what Johnny said, I think seeing Scoot evolve will be pretty interesting. I think he'll be able to get the ball, especially because he's a driving point guard. I think he'll be able to open the lane or get into the lane and get the ball to Aiton pretty deep. So excited to see what happens. Simons gets hot. 27 just seems way too low given the talent that they do have.
Siebes over under is 27.5 for the Trailblazers.
Under.
Oh,
under?
Wow.
Okay. I think so. Maybe 23 to 25 wins.
Wow. Maybe I'm just an optimistic guy, man.
22 to 25, yeah.
That's a good way to look at things, Brian.
Yeah,
dude.
I wish I had your positive outlook, guy.
I believe in the young bucks, dude. I think they'll be winners.
There's just not a lot of know-how on how to win there. Like, if it's coming from your rookie point guard, I don't think Aiden's going to lead that effort in like winning basketball. So, who's going to be the guy playing winning basketball on that team?
They've also shown
and the winning culture that they have is the winning culture that they have instilled with them in prior years is from Damian Lillard. So there's a imprint on that. So
one of these teams who's like not afraid to shut down players very early. Also, not just Dame. I remember 2 years ago when Simons was starting to go off when Dame was out. They just shut Simons down also at a certain point. And then they were running, I want to say the gentleman's name was Brandon Williams. He was running out there at point guard for like a month. Drew Eubanks, that's when he broke out. So yeah, they're not really afraid of shutting down even young guys when it's clear they're out of the running. So I wouldn't expect Scoot to be finishing the season playing, and that's kind of contributing.
Last word on Utah, Johnny, over under. I didn't think I caught it. Was it over under for you?
Portland.
Portland. Mistake. Yeah.
Under.
Fair enough. It's 3 unders and an over from optimistic Bry guy. Okay.
Hey. I believe in the new generation, dude. The future, dude. I believe in the future, dude. That's what it is.
You're Shanks.
Yeah, Shanks. I love to, dude. I give my arm for the new generation.
Moving up the ladder, we go to Utah Jazz, 35.5 over and under.
Seems high.
I don't know. I'm shrugging my shoulders. It's like it's right about what I would put them at. Honestly, a slight regression from last year. I think a lot of other teams got a little bit better, so I don't expect them to repeat. Damn it! I think I have to take under.
Like, yeah. I think like the last year's like the wins in the West were so skewed, like they're so close. I think this year we're gonna see a little bit back to normal, just because of the whole incentives for rewards and stuff like that, games played. I think
well said. Yeah,
I think Utah is an easy under. but
Res-
I'm a little biased. So
resuming normal programming, basically the big boys should be big again and the small guys
right,
should kind of regress. I
yeah,
think that's a good
yeah.
point. Steves, what is your over and under for Utah?
It's probably one of the hardest ones.
Yeah,
I
sure.
Man, that seems right about where they'll be. I think not having a Conley around to start the year is going to hurt. He kind of helped them a lot last year at the early part of the season. Jordan Clarkson, while it was impressive how he evolved, not the same type of playmaker. But they have an all-NBA guy, and I think Will Hardy's a really solid coach. So it's tough. If you're forcing me to pick, I'll go. It's 35.5.
Correct.
I'll go over with like 36. So it's not like an ambitious call, but yeah.
Brian, final word on Utah. Who's the key player for them?
Yeah, I'll go under just to answer
Oh.
that. I'll go under.
Whoa.
I think they massively overperformed last year to the point where it was like a news story, right? Everybody was like, "Oh man, look at the Utah Jazz! You all doubted us, and we sucked." I think that news story and fairy tale is kind of over because when it hit the end of the season, they obviously couldn't really sustain it. In terms of a key player, I had Kessler. I think he showed a lot of promise last year as a defensive anchor and not just shot blocking. He jumps the lanes pretty decently for a pretty big dude. He is able to get offensive boards and easy putbacks. Obviously, a lot of the joke was you gave up Rudy Gobert for somebody who looks just as good and potentially even better in the long run. So Kessler is my key player, but given how they ended the season and just how they overperformed so massively, I'll repeat. I think they're going to go under.
Okay. Let's move on up the ladder to, in my opinion, the most interesting two of Northwest. Minnesota at 45.5 and Oklahoma at 44.5. So they expect Minnesota to be one win better than Oklahoma, which is strange to me. Everyone talks about, we were talking about it, Brian, Oklahoma, like you were saying, like you foresee them being like pretty high in the playoff rankings, right? What are your thoughts on this
6.
over and under? Huh?
I think like 6 seed. I wouldn't say super high. I think they are going to be pretty good. Shea obviously has emerged as essentially a superstar level player. If he can keep this up, obviously it's hard to keep this up for that level play for so many years, but we're potentially seeing somebody who's going to be in it for the long run. He's not that old. He's like 26 years old and just came off a first all NBA first team, 31 points a game, 6-5, really good percentage. But I think for me, the interesting thing is Chet's coming back. He looks really good. He has a year under of his belt in terms of just training, following the team getting incorporated to the NBA. So really interested. And yeah, they have Jalen Williams. So I do think they're going to be a good team. I think around the 6th seed, they're at 44.5. I'd put them over just because I don't think 44 wins will get you the 6th seed in the West this year. But I do think that the Thunder will.
To be clear, they were 40-42 last year. So they're expecting.
Yeah, so I think they'll be
4 more wins. 5 more wins would be the over. Do you think Oklahoma is worth 5 more wins this year, Johnny?
I do.
And you too, Brian? Okay, fair.
I'm taking the under. I'm not as sold as them as some people are. I think people are very quick to think that these young players are going to make such a big impact like immediately. Like they have a lot of young players that are like entering like their 2nd or 3rd year. Historically, it takes around like 3 to 4 years for those players to be like really good contributors. I think teams were a little unprepared for SGA last year, so I think he's still going to be really good, but I think his efficiency is going to be down a little bit. So I do have him around the same mark as last year, about 40 to 42 wins.
This isn't psyops for the fantasy draft, right, Johnny? You aren't trying to like plant a seed or something.
SGA is not going to fall to 12, man. No way he falls to 12.
Johnny, your
I'm
12th
12th
pick?
pick. I'm last. Yeah.
It's not
okay.
that bad though.
You
There's
got
so many
12
good
I
third
picks
do
here.
want to see an actual recording of the thing because I did not tune in. I was just told that I'm last pick. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's completely
I don't
fair.
know.
Within
Some
your
funny business could have happened there.
Yeah,
Andrew did
especially
record it,
with
so you can watch the
Andrew
VOD.
and Ashwin.
Steves, what about Oklahoma City? What do you think?
I'm more along the lines of Johnny. I think they've been
really.
pretty overhyped. Really for the same reasons Johnny said. It's a young team. I don't know if I think they're like a year away. In a year, I feel like they might explode out of nowhere and win like 50 games.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, like this year, it feels like people are penciling them in for something that we haven't seen yet. There's a really solid building foundation, or really solid foundation there that gives them something to build towards. But yeah, I don't necessarily see them being a high 40 win team this year. I'm not sure their front office sees it, honestly. I think their front office has been pretty realistic about it when you read what Presti's said. It seems like it's a media darling situation where they've adopted the Thunder.
I think they are they're like the hipster NBA team right now.
Yeah, people
I did.
The NBA writers love Shea, and so they're anointing him.
They haven't watched him
pretty quickly, and that could be true. Yes. So I could see that. Brian, you want to say last word on Oklahoma City? Don't move to Minnesota.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I do see what you guys are saying, but I'm like really excited to see how Chet pans out, and I do think he's good for honestly like 5 wins. He has that defensive anchor.
But he's a rookie though. He's a rookie. Like that, he's very, very frail. Like very rarely do like really thin centers like make that big of an impact.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel good.
Get like a block here and there, but I don't think he's going to be the anchor right away.
I feel good. I feel good with them getting to 45 wins. So I'm still over.
I think it's right around
high
there.
40s.
Yeah,
I think they could get to 45.
Just like Utah's line, it's very tough. I figured them to be between 43 and 45 wins. I'm going to take the under because I do think they are primed for an explosion 1 or 2 year, and the progression of their wins isn't always going to be linear. There can be some stagnation, and then they can jump up later. It's not going to be like a streak.
Y'all don't believe in the future, dude.
Yeah,
it's another team where I'm trusting in the future, dude.
I believe in a different future, Orlando.
Very well said.
I feel like I'm the opposite of Brian. I feel like I've been like on the under on most of these picks. Yeah, I think I'm just salty tea over here. So.
You're realistic.
There's a set amount of wins, and we forget about that. I think when we look at it individually, if you look at it the whole, there has to be a set amount of wins. Minnesota Timberwolves really quickly, then we'll take a break. 45.5. So like I mentioned, they have them 1 winner higher than Oklahoma. They have a good solid core, but is there some moves to be made? I don't know. Johnny, let's start with you. 45.5. Does it seem high or low?
I'm actually going to take the over on this one. I think they're going to be around the 47 to 48 win mark. And I think success for them would be making the playoffs non-play-in seed.
Yeah, that's fair. Brian,
I think they're kind of memed right now as like the play-in champs. So
yes.
I think shedding that label was a step in the right direction for them.
Yeah, I think Johnny hit the nail on the head there. Like, you can continue to be like a bottom feeder of the playoffs, or are you going to make that next step and like act like you or deserve to be there and play like you deserve to be there? Brian, what do you think about Minnesota?
See, I want to say over, but I'm just concerned about how many teams I've said over now. If they're, I do think they're going to be better than the Thunder, so I would pin them at like 47. Well, the thing is, I'm saying over, but I'm only thinking like a game or two over. So I do think that they are better than OKC. We have Ant in line to really explode as a big name player. I mean, he obviously is big name, but I need to see it in action. I get a little bit worried that I don't think he's overhyped, but people are kind of rushing him into this mega stardom too quickly. I think it's going to be a little bit more with some growing pains, but I do think he'll get there. But as much shit as Cat gets, he might not be the superstar we all thought he was, but he's still a good player. Gobert, obviously, even though there's problems with the fit there, still a good player. So I think they'll kind of get over some of the problems that they had earlier on last season quicker. If not, they've already done that, and I could see them being around a 47 win team.
Steve's really quickly on Minnesota.
I have them over.
45.5 seem higher low.
I have them over for sure. And I think the key player is Carlos Antonio Pueblos. I think he's.
I didn't even catch that for a second. I was like, "What the hell is that, dude?"
I need to check the roster to make sure he's real. Dude.
New player.
He balled out over the summer, so I do feel more strongly that he can rebound to being what he was before. We just have to see him not be the defensive liability that he was early last year. But I mean, yeah, I think that series against the Nuggets was encouraging. They lost, but most of those games were pretty close. And I mean, they were missing arguably like their third or fourth best player in McDaniels. So I think the Timberwolves are kind of overlooked, and I could see them actually being like the surprise West team over like the Thunder.
They're a sleeper pick to win 50 games, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And surprisingly, Steve, to your point, that I thought that their series against the Nuggets was pretty encouraging also. They actually probably matched up against the Nuggets better than almost the rest of the playoff, like anybody did for the rest of the playoffs. It might just be Nuggets were taking it real easy, but still they showed up pretty good.
The Nuggets have said that themselves.
Yeah, it's just if you trade that many picks to be like defensively solid, then you should be defensively solid. Like it'd be worried if you're not. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back with the last couple ones. We're back. 2 more divisions left. Pacific, our home, and Southwest. Let's start from the bottom of a stacked Pacific Conference. Sacramento Kings at 44.5. My key player was Domas. After a great season, he kind of got shown up a little bit by Draymond and the Warriors. How he bounces back will be important to me. Steve, what do you think at 44.5 for the Sacramento Kings?
I was surprised by that number. It feels like Caesars is treating the Kings like they're the NBA's Minnesota Vikings. Like they thought last year was kind of a fluke. So I'll go. That's a hard one. I'll go under with the 44.
Brian?
Yeah, I'll go under with the 44 as well. I do think they overperformed last year. I think it was a great story. I think the beam was great. But I can't see them really finding that other level to stay really good or also improve, just given how tight the West is. That's my main thing, is that just compared to all the other teams in the West that are really gunning to win this year, or just improve, I don't see them really contending with some of the other ones. So I'll go right under.
Will they be able to now to adjust to the adjustments teams are now making for them, right? They've had a year to read the book on what Mike Brown's trying to do, and now they'll have an entire preseason. Teams will preseason to like structure their defenses around them. It'll be tougher for them to score for sure. So I take the under as well. Johnny, what do you think?
I'm taking the under. I don't see them making the playoffs this year.
Oh, wow.
All right.
So big drop off.
Flash in the pan. Flash in the pan.
Okay.
That's fine. I think
happens I feel at least one team every year.
So. I feel like you kind of
saw like it happens a lot more than you think, actually, right, Brian?
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say I feel like you kind of saw that. I don't think this is like a permanent thing, but just having Moody just bully Domas for a series was might be the key to maybe the teams are like, yeah, let's just get a bruiser in there and just beat him up. Obviously, that's not going to happen that much in the regular season, but you kind of see it's hard for them to sustain growth if that's going to happen.
I think they are really set up well for regular season success, so I am kind of hesitant now on my under call,
It's a
but I'll
tough
stick
one.
with it.
It's a tough one for sure. I think the next one is pretty easy. Clips at 46.5. I take the under on them. Just
Johnny looks surprised, dude.
Johnny. Okay, well, tell me why Westbrook's going to lead them to 50 wins.
I think it's an easy over. I think. Well, I mean, it's
Easy
just like
over.
easy over. I think they built a lot of chemistry in this preseason. You see all the videos; they're all hyping each other up, and
It's
it's
a good
because of that
vibes.
one
Good vibes will
vampire in the
carry them.
locker room, dude. So I think
KJ Martin?
I think KJ Martin's a really good pickup for them.
I love
too,
KJ.
though. Yeah, I think he's a very underrated pickup for them in the offseason. I think he's going to play a big part. I think Kawhi, when healthy, he showed in those 2 games against the Suns, he's still top 5. He looks healthy. Knock on wood that he doesn't get injured, but I think if health is relatively good, I think they're easy 50 wins.
Seems.
I just think you have to go in with the assumption that health will not be relatively good. So I think you have to go under, unfortunately. It's a really strange team.
Is this number reflective of a possible James Harden trade down the line? Because it seems a little bit higher for than like I don't know. I wonder. I'm curious now. What was last year's?
Last year they were like around.
What they won? They won 42 games last year.
No, yeah, but what was the over and under pegged at for the Caesar's book? What did they have? Because in essence,
it was probably quite high because they were.
I feel like
over.
It was like 47. I'm
so
guessing.
They've lowered it down a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I don't think there's like the Clippers are the Clippers, man. They might play well, they might not. Don't really matter.
New stadium, though. You never know.
Not
that might
next
invigorate new.
That's
coming
next
up.
year. Okay.
This is the last crypto year.
I do think it will help them if they get out of like the Lakers shadow, crypto or Staples, whatever you want to call it, and they get their own stadium. They can start building like their own not their own fan base, but like their own area of town and stuff. It'll be good for them. Moving up the line.
It's nice to lurk in the shadows, though. They might regret that decision.
Okay.
When it's the spotlight's all on them.
Let's talk about these 2 former champs. Los Angeles Lakers at 47.5, Golden State Warriors at 48.5. I'll start us off. I'll take the under on Golden State, and I'll take the over on the Lakers. What do you guys think? I got nods. Yeah, everyone's got the nods. So
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Give me a.
The Lakers one is sketchy.
It's tough. Yeah. I think that's our pace, right? If we played the same way as we did after we traded Russell Westbrook, we were at like a 49 win pace or something, right? Last year. So it's about the same. Give me a key player for LA, Brian, and give me a key player for Golden State, Sebastian. Brian first.
For LA, I had, besides the obvious ones of LeBron and AD, I had to go with Reeves, of course. Yeah. They're slotting him in as the 3rd star. He's getting all the hype in Team USA, and even the ESPN fantasy projections have him averaging 21 points a game and like 5 and 5 or something like that. So it's really crazy. I think he's going to be doing really well, but obviously the spotlight's on him to show that he can continue what he was doing last year, and in more of a substantive and like this is who I am rather than I just had a good stretch type of way. But given how deep the Lakers are, I think I'm over on us, honestly. And it's obviously a homer pick, but I do think we're a 50-win team.
Let's get the unhomer pick. Johnny, what does 47.5 for the Lakers seem to you? Is that high or low?
I thought it seemed low. I think they're going to be higher. It goes back to my thing about I think wins are going to be regressing back to the norm. And historically, there has to be in every conference, there's at least, remember like before, like if you won 50 wins in the West, you're like a 4th or a 5th seed. I think the Lakers are like top 3. So I think they're probably going to be winning around like 53 wins. So
low 50s would be nice, in my opinion. That'd be a solid season for us. So I'd be happy with that. See, so let's move to Golden State. Who do you have for us from Golden State? 48.5, and who's their key player?
Kuminga. I
Kuminga?
think
Okay.
Kuminga's the key player, yeah. They need him to develop into what he's flashed before. If he doesn't, they're quite thin. I don't really know how the Chris Paul fit is going to be. He plays at such a slow pace compared to how they're used to playing. So if Kuminga can be like a good bench running mate for Chris, I think they may surprise and go over. Although I do think they're an under. Just because I don't know, the whole Chris Paul trade felt like it was a cap dump. Then they tried to spin it like, oh, we're excited to have him here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't even like I don't get the vibe that they believe very strongly in this team being a contender this year.
I agree with that. I don't know why.
No, that's what's well said. I think I take the under on Golden State. You guys all mentioned you would take the under on Golden State. I think when CP3 is needed, he'll be injured, and when they don't need him, he'll be like too much of an influence or like on how they play. Let's move to Phoenix. 51.5, generous. I do figure that offensive firepower will get you pretty far in the regular season, but that's 52 wins to get an over. So what do you think about that one, Siebes?
It's a tough one because we all know, as much as I hate to say, KD will miss like around a month of the season, probably, if not more. So I would probably go like 49 wins, maybe a little less than that even.
Damn, okay.
And go under for sure. I don't know. Beal isn't. He's not super healthy all the time either, so it's a curious number. I think a lot of people
either.
Yeah, Nurkic isn't. Even Booker has had issues with health. So yeah, I'd go slight under, maybe even significantly under if things go poorly. Like 44 wins, it wouldn't shock me.
Wow, that's pretty low. That's okay.
Maybe it would shock me, but
so like, I think we all agree that.
It.
I think we all agree that it's championship or bust for Phoenix, right? They've completely mortgaged their future. It has to be a championship.
Yeah.
Okay. Johnny, who do you think is a key player for them this year?
Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal has gotten so much shit. Like his name's been dragged through the mud, and I think he's a tremendous player. I think he's the best third option in the league by far. I think that team has way too much firepower just from those three guys, and I think they're an over. So,
okay, Brian, finish this off.
The question is though, it's like it's going to be a lot of ISO mid range, and then there's not going to be a lot of ball movement with them. So that's a lot of concerning.
The knockout against Phoenix has always been they don't shoot enough threes, right? So in a regular season, you can get a lot of easy wins just by shooting well from three. They won't have that. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go under for the injury reason. I do think, unfortunately, KD will skip 20 games. Beal isn't always super healthy. And then because they are championship or bust, I can see them that, they have a decent position and they don't want to risk injury more. So people just start sitting. And as long as they're within the 1 through 6 range, they won't really care, because I think in their mentality is that we are one of the best, and no matter who we go up against, we can win. Whether or not that's true, I think, is a whole different question. But I would go under. I don't think by a lot, but I would go under just because I think they're looking for something beyond just a regular season.
I'll finish this off and say I'll take the over, but what really just occurred to me is that Frank Vogel's their coach now, and I think that he does put in like a defensive fundamental like side to teams that Phoenix has been missing. And the second thing he's really good at is getting a lot out of guys 8, 9, 10, and 11, 12 off the bench. So when they get injured, and like he'll be able to pull the most out of those bottom. Like, look what he did with JaVale. Like, he's good at that, and I think that's
Bool.
Sorry, Steves.
Bool. Yeah. Bool is the key player, actually.
Yeah,
not
the
Bradley
secret.
Beal.
The secret.
Yeah, there you go. Could be the key. So I take the over as well. Split on that one between the guys. let's move to Southwest. Let's let Johnny have the floor for Houston at 31.5. Tell us about Houston. That's why we brought you on. If the listeners didn't know, Johnny's a big Rockets fan, so tell us why. What's going to be for their season?
I think that's way over. I think, okay, like the first off, like my gut reaction to the Fred VanVleet, like the max contract was like, what the fuck, dude? But like as like I've marinated and with like the rest of the roster moves, I think this roster is incredibly constructed. We've added so many good veterans to balance out our young players. Steven Silas was a terrible coach. In one preseason game, we're playing better defense than 3 years of Steven Silas. We have no incentive to tank because OKC has their pick swap with us, so we can't be bad. Kevin Porter Jr. is on the mend, so Kevin Porter Jr. was probably like him and Steven Silas are like the worst parts of the Rockets because I was telling Sebastian this before that Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. like I don't know who told them, but apparently there was going to be like backcourt 2023 or whatever. So it's like it was so much of this like I'm gonna do this your turn my turn thing, and then Kevin Porter Jr. is a cancer. I hated that guy. I hated watching him play.
It was so bad.
He put up good raw stats, but just watching him play, just killing all the ball movement, it was terrible. And I think I mentioned that our defense looks incredible. I think Ime is a legitimate coach. He's going to bring out the best of it. There's a lot of good ball movement. We have a lot of young players. Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore look like they're ballers. And
they do look really good.
I love them.
When they have no expectations for them to contribute, I think that's tremendous for them to be coming off the bench. We signed like Fred VanVleet and Jeff Green, which are champions, so they bring the championship pedigree to the Rockets.
And Dylan
Reggie
was
Bullock
third
is
place.
a seasoned veteran. Huh?
Dylan was a legendary third place performer in the World Cup. He was tremendous.
That actually is a good signing for them, though. Honestly,
Dylan fits like
I think
fits
so.
the culture that Ime is trying to instill.
But
I
think, like we talked about in our contract thing, like they were at the top of our bad contracts, but that like at a lesser number, it would have been good signings. I think like VanVleet and Brooks give them like a toughness and know-how that they didn't have before. So I can see what you're saying. And the biggest thing is that Udoka, he's a good coach, undeniably, and he'll whip people into line for sure and give them, like, if they don't play defense, you saw it a lot in Celtics, they'll yank them. So he's a strong leader they need.
Wait, really quick, Johnny, you said way over. What's the number, dude?
I think they could. I non-homer opinion is I think they could go like top 6.
Oh
my God!
Non-player. They could be non-player.
All right. Hey,
It's a bit much.
that's why we brought him on. So
I'm
gave us
excited
honest
for them
opinion.
too, but it's a bit much.
Yeah. I actually would take the over as well. I think
I
they
am
might
too.
get low 30s.
I am
low
too.
30s.
I'm way over.
I could
but
see
I don't
like
know top 6.
38.
Same.
Being very optimistic.
But
So
what do you think about
I
Jabari,
just
though?
found okay, for Jabari, I was very hard on him his rookie year. I thought he was one of the worst rookies I've ever seen play. He's very robotic. He like I felt like he was like he had like a PS3 mind where he's just trying to process, but like he doesn't have the processing power to get to the next move. But like I saw him in the summer league, I've seen him in preseason. He's has so much more confidence right now. He's just balling right now. So I have high hopes for him again. So
KPJ just reminded him of like the two horrific point guards he played with at Auburn, and I think it just traumatized him.
PTSD.
Like I think that was a lot of what happened last year because he actually played pretty well towards the end of his rookie season, but early on it was pretty rough.
I remember early on in the beginning of the year, I think it was like one of like the first like 5 games, and then Steven Silas had Jabari guarding Giannis, and Giannis dropped like 47. And I'm like, I felt like it was like Rocky 4, dude. I wanted him to just throw in the towel, man. Just take him out.
Jabari's
his
skinny,
confidence.
dude, so that's not a good look.
But for the record, all 4 of us took the over, Johnny. Let that be known.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
we
would
think
say
there's
though, just success for the season though. I say going for a play-in spot. I think 6 is a little ambitious. I respect it.
Yeah.
I respect it.
No.
But I think it's a little ambitious.
I think that's fair, Brian. I think that's what I had for them to play in. So yeah, Houston Rockets, something's cooking there down in Houston. Let's move.
Yeah, that's like a great tagline, dude. That's I could see that in the Houston marketing, dude.
yeah.
Something's
Should,
cooking down there in Houston, man.
Gotta put this behind a paywall, Brian, for them.
It's
we
your
have
brain.
Dallas. We have Memphis.
Your brain in the 120-degree sweltering heat with the humidity. Your brain is cooking.
We have 3 left. We have Dallas. We have Pelicans. Oh, we have 4 left. We have Dallas, Pelicans, Grizzlies, and San Antonio. So what we'll do is I'll give Brian Dallas because he feels a strong way with Dallas. I'll give Siebes the Pelicans. I'll take Memphis, and then we'll all give our opinions on Wembyland and Spurs. So tell us about Dallas. 44.5, Brian.
I honestly, unfortunately, feel like I'm gonna go right under at 44. I love Luka. I think Kyrie's a great player, but Kyrie's just too volatile in order to have any kind of consistent thing there. My hope is that Luka's greatness can carry them both to a good synergy where Kyrie's involved and engaged, and they're able to take that. You know, they have other good players, Grant Williams. I don't even know who else is on the team right off the top of my head.
Josh Green.
Solid.
Omax.
Yeah, so like solid players, but I just
Grant
worry.
Williams, no?
Yeah, Brian mentioned him. Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah. I just I worry about the consistency. Is it? I think they have the talent, obviously, with Luka to be a solid team, but I couldn't see them actually finishing above like 6 or 7, honestly. So I'll take right under.
My question to you is, how good defensively do you think they'll be?
Not good defensively at all.
So that's my thing. Like, it's the onus on Luka and Kyrie to outscore their opponents will be so high every single game that it's just going to be tough. And I also take the under. Johnny and Steve's really quickly. Do you take the over or under on Dallas?
Under. I think
I'm going over, but I will acknowledge there's like a heavy for key players for them. I just wrote their role players because they're relying so heavily on young guys to fill in the defensive gaps with like Josh Green, Lively that they just drafted, and then Omax. Like they're gonna be very dependent on those guys to step right up, and just gonna be growing pains.
I watched a lot of Mavs last year because I had Luka in fantasy, and as great as he is, it is a lot of like, is he on? Yeah, is he on? And if he's not on, then the offense is just totally dead. And I haven't seen any additions to that, to the team. Even, you know, and it was like that even with Kyrie, you know. So, and I haven't seen any really changes to the team for me to think any differently. So
yeah. So, anything else on Dallas, or move to Memphis? Okay.
We're good.
45.5. And so what I wanted is I wanted them to regress, and I wanted to take the under, but then with Ja missing 25 games, Triple J coming off a bad FIBA run, but it's just I couldn't do it because they have a good system, and we have so much evidence of them playing without Ja, and they seem to do fine. I think Desmond Bane will carry them for those first 25. So I do think 46 to 48 is where I put them at. I thought the Brooks leaving would affect them more, but I just see them going on as usual, just being a tough team to play against regardless. So I take the over on Memphis at 45.5. Brian?
I will take a slight under. I do think that Ja missing 25 games is pretty significant. I know they were last year a good team when he was out, but I just can't see them striking gold twice like that. But I'm happy to be wrong. It's not a strong feeling that they're going to be under, but if I am to just take a gut feeling of it right now, I'd say a little bit under.
Johnny?
Light under. Yeah.
Okay. Any reason why?
Yeah, I just think Ja missing 25 games is big. I think you can't just rely on a team to be good. I think that wouldn't be like their second time. This would actually be their third time, right? Because I think like 2 years ago, Ja missed a lot of time due to injury, and they were pretty good then. But you can't just keep expecting that. So I think they're going to be slight under, and they'll be in the play-in.
Teeps?
They weren't as good without Ja last year as they were 2 years ago, like Johnny was saying. So it does seem like that kind of started to disappear. They're like a feistiness without Ja. But I'm with Ashwin. Like that number is quite difficult because I expected it to be slightly higher, and then I would have gone under. 45.5 is right on, and they have a good system, so I'll go under, but just slightly.
That's fair.
Yeah, maybe play-in team, but it's tough. One of the tougher ones.
Tried to be unbiased on this one, but yeah, I would want them to go under. I just don't like their team, especially after the playoff series last year. All right, Teeps, talk to us
I
about
like
the
the
Pelicans.
team a lot. Oh man, the Pelicans, the highest volatility team in the whole conference. I feel like just because of one man, he's like literally the difference between them being a play-in team or a top 3 seed, in my opinion. And we all know it's Zion who I'm referring to. Although Brandon Ingram's health is not always the best either. People just kind of overlook that because Zion's much more evident, I guess you could say. I was going to say much bigger, but much bigger
He
maybe.
looks big in the preseason, dude. I hate to say it, but he looks kind of big,
he looks
man.
fine. He looks fine.
I don't know. Looks kind of big to me.
People don't agree with you from what I've seen online, so you're in the minority.
I still think it looks kind of fat.
You always will.
Yeah. I did write one sentence for Zion.
Yeah.
He's the key player. Can he put down the bonbons? If he can, has the damage already been done?
Wait, he's admitted, dude. He's admitted that he's had eating problems very openly. So,
yeah, but the knees might be shot already. So
that's unfortunate.
That's a lot of weight on the
like
knees.
that, Johnny.
There's bigger issues with Zion besides that. Is can he be as there's no reason for him to be as poor of a defender as he has been in the past. He has all the tools to be an impact defensive player. So I would say that would be like the key thing about Zion this year, presuming he's healthy and plays, which is a big presumption, honestly. But yeah, I think they're the toughest team to gauge.
44.5 is high.
I think it's low.
So you think they're close to 50 wins?
Yeah,
even
I think
accounting for the possibility that Zion gets hurt.
That's why I'm saying it's volatile as hell. I definitely wouldn't be betting on Pelicans over unders if I was putting money down. That's like a quick way to lose money, it feels like.
So then what's your take, Siebes? You said over?
Oh man, I'll go over, but I don't feel good about it. The talent's just
I go
good.
under. Yeah, I do think, and I hate to say it, knock on wood again, I do think Zion will miss time again, and it will affect them. Brian?
I'm going to say over with the hope that Zion is healthy. I feel as though because this does feel like a make or break, that if he can't stay healthy this year, then we're really looking at Zion's never going to reach what he's going to be. I think the past few years there's been just enough flashes in combined with the injury that we were a little bit more accepting of it. But once you get to your 4th or 5th year and you haven't had one really solid season of health, I think you got to start looking at there might not ever be. So I'm going over with the hope that Zion stays healthy. And if they do, I do think they're a very good team, actually, like high 40s.
What say you, Johnny?
I'm picking the under. Okay. I just think it's too volatile with Zion. And Rockets got to beat somebody to get their 6th seed. So.
I will add regarding the Zion health thing and it being make or break, I would kind of agree because they brought in the trainer who was in Phoenix all those years when they were like the Magic Healing Suns, with Grant Hill and all that. So like, I would agree. Yeah, it's kind of like if that guy, because they made a lot of changes to the training staff down in New Orleans, and if that guy can't get that team healthier, then not only Zion is gonna have that label for the rest of his career, Brandon Ingram might too, because Brandon Ingram misses a lot of games.
He does.
Yeah, it's tough. This is we saved the best for last, I suppose. San Antonio Spurs. We've been going off on Wemby. Me and Brian saw some clips yesterday, or you're sharing some clips yesterday, Sebastian, and just kind of scary and spooky and awe-inspiring at the same time. I don't think the over and under is really that difficult. 29.5. I don't think they'll win 30 this year, but I could be wrong. But what's to me is what you could define as success for San Antonio this year. Let's start with Sebastian.
It's a tough one. I guess you want to be competitive early on, and then when things start to slip away, you can shut people down. The typical protocol, I guess you do nowadays, that teams that don't have playoff hopes but want to see the young guys
Spurs do it better than anyone. They've done it last year, right? Didn't they start off really hot last year, and then they just started yanking people, and they got to where they were?
Yeah, it was a masterclass.
It was a masterclass in tanking, really. You got to give them credit, yeah. So what do you think about the over and under then, Sebastian? 29.5 and success. What's success for them?
Yeah, I'll go under. Success is somebody I guess success is less predicated on Wemby for them. It's like Devin Vassell showing he's like
Exactly.
a high caliber NBA player, or Keldon. I mean, we've seen Keldon. Keldon's pretty good. Sochan showing he can be on the floor with their starting unit, and his lack of shooting isn't a huge liability. I'd say it's like the auxiliary pieces around Wemby showing they're worthwhile as well, being the success.
That's exactly what I had. Find out who can play with Wemby this year. Like who else? Like that's really the only thing that matters. Wins, losses don't matter. I take the under, by the way. Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, I take the under. I think the key is just keep Wemby healthy, get him some experience. I had similar thoughts of like who can play with him, but as a former Wemby's number one hater, even though before he played his first game, and I'm already jumping ship, dude. He looks too fucking good, man. He looks too good. But we'll see. Yeah, I think just like as long as he stays healthy, gets some reps, I don't think they should try to run him into the ground or anything like that. I think they should, rest him when they can. But I'd still go under. But I wouldn't be surprised if they went over. But I think they're going to be pretty conservative with how they're using everybody. So I'll go under.
So Johnny, give me one player you think who could play with Wemby on the roster right now, and then whether you take the over and under.
Well, they're pretty high on Devin Vassell, so hopefully if they're that high on them, it's just getting one less of the foundation blocks out of the way. So I think they're hoping that they can mesh. I think Kelton Johnson will probably get traded to like a contender.
I see.
Trade deadline. I'm taking the under. I think it's in their best interest to be bad, and Popovich has shown that they're not above tanking. So, so yes, easy under.
Not only are they not above tanking, they're going to do it better and more Spursian than any other franchise. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts, guys? We went through a lot of them, and we didn't touch on everything, but I think we got a good snapshot of each team and what's going to happen and some key players here and there. Anything else, Brian, Sebastian, Johnny?
I think I'm good.
All right. We move to Booler Bust and top 5, and a special treat for the listeners. We have a fourth today. It's Johnny. Johnny will be joining us, so let's get into it. Yeah. Top 5, Booler Bust. Top 5 this week is courtesy of Sebastian's. Why don't you explain your thought process behind a very surprising top 5 from you, to be honest?
So the other week, my uncle, he kind of just randomly texts me things sometimes, and out of nowhere, he texted me, "What's your favorite sandwich?" And I was like, damn, that's actually a great question. I had to think about it. And I started just typing out things, and I was like, I guess I have a lot of favorite sandwiches. And at that moment, I knew I should bring this to the pod because I'm sure everybody has very interesting top 5 sandwich lists, and that's the thought process.
Yeah, no. The reason
Nice
why
and
it's surprising
simple.
for me is that I would always there was times when we were hanging out growing up where I would offer sandwiches for dinner, and you would
No.
say, "Absolutely not, no sandwiches for dinner."
Definitely
I
not.
won't say what you really said, but
That's
wouldn't-
okay though. That's okay though. I'm a big sandwich guy, but I feel like sandwiches for dinner isn't a vibe.
how is
It's
it
like a
any
lunch
different than
thing.
having soup for dinner?
It's like a lunch
You don't
thing.
have soup
Oh,
for dinner, though.
Is hot pot not a soup for dinner?
No.
Oh, come on. That's
Thank
don't
you, Johnny's
really-
here, dude. Thank you, Johnny's here, dude.
Soups, I don't know. Soups are just more of a meal, man. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like the pieces of bread with the meat in between, it's not a dinner.
All right, fair enough. We'll see. Steve's choice, so we go with it. And then, like I mentioned, Johnny's here today. So why don't we let Johnny go second or third? Brian, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you start us off?
Okay. For starting at number 5 for my top 5 sandwiches, number 5 is a bit of a utility pick, similar to how last week bananas was a utility pick. Number 5 is just healthy. It's a turkey sandwich. I'll eat it just to be filled and have something for lunch. But because I have so many of them, I do enjoy them. And I think turkey is pretty solid. So I'll keep that at 5. At number 4, I have like katsu sandwiches, like chicken katsu sandwiches you can get at like Asian markets, or you can just get them in Japan or something like that. Of course, I'm a big Japanese food guy. And these are something that I love to have as a to-go snack. And if you find it at a place where I don't want to say specialize, because not a lot of places do, but there were some places when I was living in LA that like specialize in katsu sandwiches that were really good. So I'll have that as my number 4. Number 3, I have lobster rolls. This is a bit of the decadent pig. Hey, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
I did not expect that one from you, Brian. That's why I'm
No,
laughing. No,
yeah.
reason.
I like
choice.
seafood. I like seafood. So lobster rolls are pretty good. I don't have them very often, only when I go to, like a nice restaurant or something. I do think they're very overpriced because you get a small, puny ass lobster roll for like $25 or something like that. But if we're going by pure flavor, I do like lobster rolls quite a bit. At number 2, I have pastrami sandwiches. Things like the Hat, things like Cats in New York. I think like a really good pastrami sandwich is both very filling, of course, very rich and decadent, but just very damn good. So I have that in my number 2. And then number 1, I am repping the Vietnamese culture, and I have banh mi sandwiches. gotta keep the Vietnamese food alive. And I do have a lot of banh mi sandwiches, obviously, because my family likes to get them. But similar to how you just love things that you ate a lot growing up, I obviously ate a lot growing up as a Vietnamese guy, so that'll be my number 1. Quick honorable mention was just like egg sandwiches. I sometimes will eat
your
those
Oscar from The Office
in the morning.
He's taking egg sandwiches everywhere, bro.
Hey,
Raking up the place.
they kind of smell, so I'm not eating in front of other people. But that will be my honorable mention.
I super solid top 5 ruined by an honorable mention, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I'd say it's one of Brian's weaker efforts.
No, really?
We'll
Dude,
let the
I'm
people
the
decide.
sandwich guy, so that's true. I'm the sandwich guy, dude.
It doesn't seem like it.
All right, I'll go next, and then Johnny will go. Then we'll finish with Seeb. So at 5, I have PB&J. Just feel like gotta have it on the list throughout the years. How much I've eaten it from all these school lunches and stuff. Just like Brian said, growing up, you kind of grow a taste for these things. And it's just a classic sandwich. Can't go wrong with it. So PB&J at 5. I have banh mi at 4. Big fan of the banh mi.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah, no, it's a great sandwich, right? No doubt. Like the pate, and then I like the pickled vegetables and cilantro. It's just a good combination. I prefer the chicken barbecue pork, but
It's very surprising that you have that in your top 5.
I
for me,
love.
actually.
I think you were the one who told me about THH sandwiches.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
THH is that's the goat, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
I go
goat.
there. And then, of course, growing up, Lee's when we went to UCI and
Yeah,
stuff.
Lee's. Shout out Lee's.
Shout out Lee's. Next, I have paninis. There's two in particular that I really like: chicken pomodoro and a chicken pesto panini. That would be my 3. And then at 2, I have a Philly cheesesteak. Big fan of the Philly cheesesteak. I think my favorite one is Philly's Best down in Alton, and also Jimmy John's also makes a decent one. So surprisingly, we can get them here. Philly cheesesteak at 3. I have Philly cheesesteak at 2. Panini at 3, and then at 1 I have the grilled cheese, the classic grilled cheese. I think you can do the bacon grilled cheese, some sort of like chicken grilled cheese or something. Like, I think there's a lot of options: roasted tomatoes, spinach, all that stuff. So grilled cheese at 1. Honorable mentions. Me and Steve were talking about this earlier, but I would have put cheeseburger at 1, but I don't think it was, like, technically it is a sandwich, but I don't think it was in the spirit that Sebastian wanted for the top 5. So no cheeseburger. But the 2 I would say are like doner kebab or like a chicken shawarma type vibe.
Or glizzies, dog.
Glizzies too. I love glizzies on the golf course at the turn. It's like a classic.
Isn't that a big meme? Like,
That's a big meme right
a
now.
Sandwich, or whatever the hell they say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that'd be my top 5 anyways, but we can debate it at a different time. That's my top 5 honorable mentions. Johnny, you're up.
Okay, so when I was given this top 5 topic, I thought it was very hard because I'm not much of a sandwich guy myself. I think a sandwich in itself is a very lazy meal.
You haven't had good sandwiches.
So I actually had to think about this. So coming in at number 5 is a PB&J. I actually really like the taste. Peanut butter can't be crunchy though; it needs to be creamy.
Oh, bullshit! That's a terrible take.
Number 4 is a gyro. Is a gyro considered a sandwich? Because
I was struggling with that too.
Yeah.
I love gyro
wrap,
yeah. So
is it
I think
gyro
we
or
have to
gyro?
accept.
Gyro.
Gyro. I'm
Gyro.
I say
cultured.
both. It depends on how I feel same day, Johnny. But yeah, I think it should count in my opinion. What do you think, Sebastian?
I
It's your
do.
call.
We were discussing this before we started tonight. I think it does count, the wrap.
I think I'm more of a fan of the tzatziki sauce than anything else does. Number 3 is Brian had mentioned this, a lobster roll.
Hey, the same spot too. Let's go.
Yeah, I think lobster rolls. It's like the fanciest version of the laziest food you can get. So that's why I put the lobster roll. And usually the bun is very nicely toasted in some butter, and it's a pleasant meal. Number 2, I did have a cheeseburger as number 2, so controversial choice. So yeah, cheeseburger is fantastic. No toppings, just meat, cheese, and bun. So, and then for my number 1 is the banh mi, but it has to be from THH. I think banh mi in general has a very high variance of being absolute shit. Because you get the wrong banh mi, it'll cut up your mouth when you eat it.
Yeah. Or the bread stale or something.
Right, yeah. And I'm not a huge fan of the cold cuts. I like the grilled meat options like that. And then my honorable mention is a tuna melt.
Okay, nice.
Interesting.
I like that. Shout out Bang Me, dude. We out here.
So I made a last minute change on mine as we were speaking. And so we'll start off with number 5 being a pulled pork sandwich with the coleslaw on top. Big fan of that. Then number 4, we're going to go with a chicken pesto sandwich. Ashwin had mentioned it earlier, and I approvingly nodded. I was like, "That's a great choice, Ashvin. Well done."
I didn't see it, but thank you, Sebastian.
Some of these other lists I have not approvingly nodded. Number 3, we're gonna go with Italian cold cuts. Big fan of salami.
Big salami guy, huh? Yeah.
Capicola, mortadelle, all of these cold cuts, delicious.
Gabagool.
That is capicola, but
Okay.
number 2 is a Reuben sandwich, so a variation of Brian's pastrami choice, but big fan of the Reuben sandwich. And number 1 is the Philly cheesesteak.
Nice.
Never can go wrong with a Philly cheesesteak. And I think for my honorable mentions, we'll do. I had sosis bandari, which is like this Iranian hot dog sandwich. It's quite good. It's like a little more complicated than that, but it has a good flavor. Buffalo chicken sandwich, and then the Chinese hamburger, otherwise known as like rojiamo. I'm a big fan of that, but it's a bit hard to find in this area. So yeah, that was my sandwiches for the week.
All right.
No,
Thanks for the top
no
5.
banh mi for you? You're not a big banh mi guy?
Yeah, what
Dude,
the hell, dude?
I'm
Personally
actually
insulting Brian. Yeah.
I'm actually
dude.
surprised
I'm the
by
banh mi police, dude.
Johnny's inclusion of banh mi, because when we were in high school, Johnny used to shit all over banh mi, and I was already
That's
not a huge fan of banh mi, but I would eat it. And then when Johnny started shitting on it, I started thinking, yeah, you know what? Fuck banh mi. I'm not gonna eat banh mi anymore. So Johnny kind of psyopted me into full-blown banh mi hate.
It had to be from THH. THH
I'm
is
not
like
a
the god tier.
huge
Really good.
fan of the flavors. I'm not a big fan of the
That's
like
fair.
fresh herbs that are used.
I know it's a trend that you just hate on Vietnamese food.
I don't like the herbs they use
Some people don't like it. Not even hating. Some people
I
don't
like
like
pho.
it. Dude. That's fair.
a lot, but I wouldn't go
Yeah.
choose pho
Yeah,
as a
pho's
first
well.
soup option. So that's probably the problem. But
My
it's a
question
great-
is, I've seen some of these banh mi places start putting mayonnaise instead of pate,
Oh,
and I feel like it ruins it. Like it's just a cheap. It is a fat, I guess, that you can use a cheaper version of the fat, but the pate makes it, in my opinion. That's what a banh mi is for. Okay. Anything else?
I think it's
Go ahead.
it's a stay away from a banh mi shop if they don't call it a banh mi, if they try to like market it as like a Vietnamese hoagie or something, and
Yeah.
they charge you like
Vietnamese
$13
po'
for
boy.
that thing. You stay away from that.
Vietnamese French roll,
Good
dude.
call. Good call. Yes. Very well
Vietnamese
said.
French roll.
Okay. Let's move to Bool bust. I have 2 busts, but I can go later. Anyone really feeling like there's something busty on their mind, or let's guess.
I can start.
Yeah,
I
go
can
ahead.
start.
Guess, Johnny.
I have 2 busts from this past weekend.
Okay.
The first one is from it's Google Maps during high traffic hours. Like I was driving to LA on Friday, and it's like it told me like a faster route, say 5 minutes, and I took it, and it took me to like the fucking boonies and like the super industrial area. And then I am pretty sure I drove over a nail because I have like a flat tire now.
Oh,
So it's just like, yeah, it took me to the fucking boonies and it just fucked me. So I got a
Yeah,
flat
that
tire that I have
sucks
to get.
ass.
So
That sucks.
my second bust is probably KFC because I haven't had that in a while, and so I still wanted it yesterday. And then I went to go get an 8-piece family meal, and then the guy was like, "Oh, it's like the 14 piece is only $1.99 more," and I was like, "Oh yeah, for sure, I'll get that." But then it was like the soggiest chicken, and
the
the
upsell.
chicken. I'm pretty sure they're trying to get rid of the old chicken. Yeah, and then like I could barely eat 1 piece. I still could barely eat 1 piece. Now we have 12 pieces of chicken just sitting in our fridge. So like, what am I gonna do with this, dude? So it's terrible. It's not.
You
It's
gotta,
not
like,
good. So
air fry it or something to bring back the crispiness.
yeah, but I shouldn't have to do that though. That's a
No,
thing.
you shouldn't. I agree.
Yeah. So KFC is. I used to like KFC a lot, but now it's maybe it's the Anaheim KFC. So
I used to love their chicken littles. They're great sandwiches, but that's about it.
Chicken ladles are goated. Those
Yeah.
used to be so good.
I think Popeyes is just much better.
I think Popeyes is just a
But
tier above.
what Popeyes
Yeah.
do we have in our area? I don't know near Johnny in Anaheim, but like I don't think
There's a
there's any.
Popeyes down the street, and I feel so stupid for going to KFC rather than going down the street to Popeyes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
So for a Bool,
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. Yeah. So my Bool is I've been messaging Sebastian about this a lot, but Timu is my Bool.
Yeah,
I
my
know.
dad's into it too.
I was
So
hoping.
I did like a I did like a test order off of Timu, and then like all the clothes that came.
What is this?
So it's like some really cheap
Chinese
clothing
Amazon?
website.
Is it Chinese?
Yeah, but they really push you to download the app for these
Oh, okay.
promos. But I won't download the app because I think that's gonna steal all my info. But so like I ordered a bunch of clothes off of there and paid through PayPal, and the quality is actually quite fantastic. It's held up very well in the wash, and then I don't think I paid more than like $20 for one item. So after my first order, I put in 3 more orders, and then 40 items came, and then I'm keeping 35 of the 40. So that's a pretty solid haul. So
Damn.
so
I never thought like of Timo as a clothing source, more of as like gadget and like electronic source or like.
they
But
sell everything. Yeah.
nah, I should look into it. Yeah, good high praise from Johnny. Very unique and good addition to this week's Booler Bus, Johnny. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steves, you want to go next?
Sure. We'll start with the bust. It's a continued bust that will not stop. It's these automated crypto spammers on Twitter. I get a notification pretty much every 2 hours at least. And it's just, I go to my tab, see like, oh, it's the notification. It's just a list of tagged usernames from a profile with no profile picture. And I report them and I block them. And then another one pops up like a few hours later and it just won't stop. And I don't know what can be done about this.
What are these, like DMs or what?
No, it's just like they're tagging me in outright tweets. It's just tweets with a bunch of usernames tagged, and then you click on it, and then like you click on the tweet, and there's like a reply from the user. It's like, I earned this much with this crypto app or whatever, and it won't stop, man. It's been like this for like a month, and Elon's done nothing to remedy the situation, and it's just turning Twitter into a bigger dumpster fire.
X, bro. You mean X, don't you?
I'm not calling it X. No thanks. I finally updated the Twitter app on accident, and now I have the X logo instead of Twitter, the bird.
Sometimes I
Yes.
have to double take that I'm on like the right thing. It's like
If it
I
wasn't
don't know.
muscle memory from where the app's located on my phone, I'd probably be doing the same thing. So yeah, that sucks. And for my Bool, it's Scotland qualifying for their second Euro in a row. The first time outright they've qualified for a major tournament since the 1998 World Cup. Very rare for me to be happy about Scottish soccer. So God bless Steve Clark. He's done tremendous work with the Tartan army, and I'm very excited to see what we do next year in Euro in Germany. And unfortunately, this does mean, Ashwin, that Odegaard and Holland have now failed to qualify for Euro.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
Probably
but not
good
really.
good for our players and good for not. I mean, you say that, but then you kind of want the best players at Euro. It sucks in that regard, but
Yeah,
it's
but
probably
Scott
best for our stuff.
McTominay. Scott McTominay is going to be there. He is
Yeah.
one of the best players.
The recent brace, coming off his recent brace to win Manchester
Tremendous.
United safe. Yeah.
I laughed
Anything
so
else?
hard when that happened.
Yeah. And then you see the Manchester United coach, like who's typically a huge dick, just like come over and put his hand in, like as if he was like planned this. Like, come on, man, you had no idea this was happening, and you were just lucky.
Yeah, basically. But no, those are my two for the week. Pretty simple.
Okay, Brian, you want to go?
Sure. I have two Bools. Pretty simple, pretty even keel week for me, so nothing really bothered me that much. But for one of my Bools, I actually just had overnight delivery from Amazon. Like I've needed to order some stuff, and actually some stuff for a road trip. And I'll order it at 11, and it's there at like 7 in the morning. So nice and convenient. it really makes you think, like, what's even sometimes the point of going to the store when you get things so quickly?
There's no point.
While you're sleeping.
We've talked about this so much, Brian. There's
Yeah.
no point anymore. They don't have
Yeah, yeah.
anything. They don't have your size, and they all offer to like, oh, we'll order it for you. Fuck, if I wanted to order it, I would just gone to Amazon. Like,
Yeah,
if you,
yeah.
there's no point for me to order it at the store. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. So that's just one of them, and then the other one was this one. This one's a little bit of like, I don't know, like a boomer pick, but newspapers. I don't know, like the other day. I was-
Who are you, dude?
Yeah, no. I was just reading one. I don't read one normally.
Oh my
But
god.
I read one just a couple days ago. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice, you know, some good local news, nice and tailored, can't click away. So
It's the most
Thought it was
hipster
kinda
shit I've
nice,
ever
dude.
heard.
not at all, dude, not at all. We get newspapers all the time and I never read them. So I was like, okay, like, why don't I just read it this time? Hey, it's quite nice. So that'll be one of my bulls.
Are you talking about the City of Irvine newspaper that they send for free?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't know about that one.
The Irvine Standard, dude. It's called the Irvine Standard, dude. I thought it was chill. People put effort
It's
into these
not
things,
bad.
dude.
I agree. It's not
People
horrible.
put effort into these things. I want to hear some good local stories, man.
The
But-
Brian Good Samaritan of the Irvine
Yeah,
community. Yeah.
There you go. Big community man. Big community man.
Yeah. Okay, dude. Yeah, they're not expecting that one, that's for sure. Yeah. And I think you might get some shit from our listeners, but I
Whatever, dude.
I appreciate
Whatever.
the vulnerability, Brian. Thank you.
Whatever, man.
It's a good choice.
Yeah.
It's very Brian, very on brand.
Okay, to me. So I just have one bust this week. There could have been a second bust. I'm navigating the YouTube ad blocker problem. I moved everything to Firefox and I updated uBlock Origin, and it's still. And today it was the day that they made the fix on Firefox. So unless you have YouTube Premium, you're gonna get locked out of watching any videos after the third video if you have ad blocker on, which kind of sucks.
Really?
And yeah.
Damn.
I've been able to just exit. I have an
Same.
ad blocker, but I've been able
I get
to
the
exit
warning.
out still. Yeah,
I get
I
the
get the warning every
exit it.
video.
Maybe because I refreshed it 3 times or went to 3 different videos, and it's basically you have 3 videos and then they cut it off. So I'm worried about that, and I was very pissy about it. I would rather pay for a VPN and pay 3 or 4 times the money for a VPN than pay YouTube for YouTube Premium because of how they've acted in this. So I'm just very salty about that. But that's not my bust, by the way. My bust is a creator on YouTube, ironically. Adam, have you guys heard of this guy called Adam W? Adam Wahid?
No.
I'm surprised because he has 15 million subscribers or 14 million subscribers, but it's doing the most stupid asinine stuff. Like his vibe is like one-upmanship. So like the one I saw is like he's eating on the plane during COVID and the flight attendant keeps coming to ask him to like put on his mask, and he keeps eating. So he starts with like a sandwich, and then he like brings a barbecue on the plane,
It's
and then
skits,
he brings
it's skits.
it's skits. It's really cringe, shitty skits, but this one got 205 million views. This fucking COVID one, and he does the exact same formula for every single one of his videos. It starts with like something normal, and it escalates to something more crazy and unbelievable. And I don't like the way he looks either. So I'm all out on Adam Wahid. Just not the vibe. And I can't believe that. No, I can't believe that someone who puts such low tier content out gets high quality, like is on the upper echelon of YouTube with 14.2 million subscribers. You guys will, after the pod, you guys can look and see how kind of cringy it is. But
I looked him up.
you get it, Seeps? Huh?
Yeah, I kind of get it.
What?
I kind of get it. Yeah. But I mean, that's what gets the huge views on YouTube. I mean, look at what Darman's built.
That is true.
I agree, honestly.
I recently,
Like,
it's funny you mentioned that because I just like, I signed in, I went through like incognito mode to see if it affected the ad block thing. And on the front page, who is it but the homie Darman? And I watched one of the videos, and it was just super whack, but also very uplifting and heartwarming.
There
So I
you
don't know
go,
how to
man.
act, dude. It's like, should I be affected by the poor acting or this uplifting story? I don't know which one it is. So That was my one.
Wasn't
so-
there
yeah,
a
good.
big controversy about Darman, about not paying the doctors? I mean, not paying the actors and stuff like that, like unfair
believe so.
labor laws.
And there's a lot of
Has he-
kids too. I think you might like if you're kids, you get a very subsidized rate for acting, right? It's gonna be very low. So I don't know if he
It's all the
uses.
exposure, dude. I was
Yeah.
in a Darman video.
It's your
But
big
yeah,
break.
that's my bust for this week.
Yeah.
I had one half bust and one true bust. The true bust is YouTube, but the half bust is Adam Wahid and his garbage ass shorts. So that's it for this week, guys. Long ass episode, but we went through the entirety of the NBA, and I think we got a good read on what's going to happen this year. It was very nice having Johnny on. Next week, you'll get to meet the last two Bool Boys, Jesse and Sean, as we go to Salt Lake City for the live draft. Unfortunately, Johnny's not coming, but we'll miss him. Song of the week is Sebastian's, right?
No.
No,
Brian.
It goes mine.
Brian's. Let us know about it, Brian.
Yeah, so I've just been on a little house kick recently. So there is this house artist. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but it's like Didier Armeni. He plays a lot of house that sounds kind of like that stuff that you'd be listening to when you're like, let's say, driving down the freeway or something like that. Just like cool night driving music. And the song
that's
that
your
I
vibe,
have,
Brian. You started that vibe.
yeah, and the name of this particular song is "One of Those Nights" by Didier Armeni.
Sure.
Didier.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Didier.
Johnny, any last words as we sign off?
No, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
First of many visits, I'm sure. So, yeah.
Yep.
See you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.